City Council public hearing come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Dion? Here. Kilby?
Here.
Bellibbity? Pelletier? Pereira?
Here.
Reposo?
Here.
Washington? And President Kamara.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and not deemed acknowledged and permissible.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Motion
Second.
to open the public hearing has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public meeting is now open. Item number one is curb removal. Derek Souza, 50 Hayfield Lane, for the removal of curbing as follows. At 50 Hayfield Lane, 16 feet existing opening. Curb to be removed is 8 feet. There is no additional curb to be added. Combined opening proposed after alteration is 24 feet. The applicant proposes to extend the existing 16 feet curb opening by an additional 4 feet on each side. The total opening for this location will be 24 feet. Are there any proponents to this public hearing? Proponent, want to come down, please, to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and give us the reason you're a proponent to this. You can just hook it on the other one, please, for now. Thank you. So, yeah, just speak into the microphone, please, and give us your name and address for the record. And you can sit down at the chair.
Derek Souza, 50 Hayfield Lane. I just want to get cars off the road. My driveway right now is too narrow, so 2 cars parked side by side, constantly dinging up each other's cars. So I want to widen it up so we can get the cars off the road and park inside the driveway.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other proponents to this public hearing? Any other proponents? Hearing none, are there any opponents to this public meeting? Any opponents? Hearing none, move on to item number 2. Fox Holding LLC, 515 Sanford Road, Westport, Mass. 02790, for the removal of curbing as follows. At 1375 Airport Road, right now there is no opening at all. Curb to be removed is 85.5 feet. Curb to be added is 0. Combined opening proposed after alteration is 85.5 feet. The applicant proposes to construct a driveway entrance to serve a newly constructed warehouse/processing building in the industrial park. The total curb opening of 85.5 feet is required to accommodate the turning requirements of delivery vehicles. The total opening at the site will be 85.5 feet. This work has been completed. Are there any proponents to this public hearing? Any proponents? Hearing none, are there any opponents to this public hearing? Opponents? Come on down, please. State your name and address for the record, and have a seat, speak into the microphone.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Al Rincarell from Nantucket Sound, Fox Holdings. We put up a new building, put an entranceway, and I had my engineer who was going to submit this a year ago. The building is done, and we need that width to get tractor trailers in and out of the facility. So I'm the owner of the company.
So you came down as an opponent, but you're really a proponent.
The opponent, right.
No, she's the
You're against or?
proponent. You're
I'm
in
for
favor
it.
of it.
You're in
Yes.
favor, okay.
Yeah.
You would be a proponent, no problem, you're duly noted. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. So we have a proponent. Are there any other opponents? None? Just for the record, he was a proponent, not an opponent. No problem. There being no further.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close
Second.
the public hearing has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing is now closed. City Council Committee on Finance. City Council Committee on Finance will please come to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Dion? Here. Kilby?
Here.
Bellibbity? Pelletier? Pereira?
Here.
Reposo?
Here.
Washington? President Kamara.
Here. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting, may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and not deemed acknowledged and permissible. Before we begin the public hearing, a number of people have signed up for citizens input time. Please want to remind everyone, you have 3 minutes. First, we have Delinda Camara, subject matter. No one is doing their job. Please come down for 3 minutes. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I had signed up for the safety.
For the safety? I don't know, it says here, no one is doing their job in subject matter.
Okay.
There's nothing about safety here. Just
Hi.
reading what you wrote.
I'm not good at this, but, Sean, I haven't contacted you yet, but Michelle, I've contacted you. Brad, I've
Please don't single out
contacted
counselors individually. If you want to talk to the counselors, refer them as counselors.
you. Okay.
Thank you.
People are not doing their job as city councils, and the Fall River Police Department is not doing their job. We all know what's going on in this city. And as far as City Hall, I called again today, and the woman over there, I'm not gonna blast her right now. I asked to speak to Ryan, and you hung up on me before, Linda.
Please do not attack
And,
counselors.
I was at the doctor's office and
Second
said they're
time.
calling me.
She wouldn't let me speak to Ryan, and he's over in elections. This is the 3rd year that I'm having a problem with getting my stuff in the mail for me to fill out and have there on time. Today, I went out and it was registered, so now I can't get it until tomorrow. Why haven't city council helped us, the people? Isn't that what you all are for the people?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. And I've called you numerous times too, sir.
I believe we spoke on the phone.
Thank you.
Did we not speak on the phone? Okay, we spoke.
I spoke.
Thank you. Next, we have Eileen Reposa, subject matter Meridian Street, Davis Playground. You have 3 minutes as well.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Reposa. I live at 813 Meridian Street, and I'd like to state, just for the record, I understand the whole 3-minute issue, but I do have disabilities which sometimes prevent me from speaking everything at once. I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
I'm here about Davis Playground and Meridian Street. My neighbors and I went to a park board meeting for the first time on the 6th. The most pleasant meeting I have ever been to here at City Hall. I'd like to thank them very much for doing their job, researching public records and understanding what the deed for that playground clearly states, listening and respecting what the people who came before the board had to say. I've stated before the City Council for the last numerous years that all videos that were taken there were handed over to the proper authorities, being the police department and the district attorney's department. The Fall River Police Department has done an outstanding job as far as my neighborhood is concerned. They worked round the clock, no matter what time of the day or night I had to call them for issues that were going on there. They were always there. They did what needed to be done to clean that area up. We worked very hard in our neighborhood to keep it that way so everybody can come to that playground and feel safe. It's not just safe for us to come in, say, no, you cannot come into my neighborhood. That's what my neighborhood is not about. I'd like to thank the police department, the fire department, the city inspector for meeting with the park board and agreeing with us what the deed states, what the safety issues are with that playground in the neighborhood. The last city council meeting, I was extremely offended and hurt over the words that came out of city council's mouth about people calling. As you can tell right now, when I call, I have a difficult time speaking. I find it extremely offensive and hurtful that I'm going to be made fun of over a phone call that I made to the city council and the city because I have issues, and it's misconstrued as being a NIMBY attitude and trying to stop people from going there. That's not what we are about. I'm blessed to live in a neighborhood that I live in. All of my neighbors, they're not my neighbors. These people are my family.
You have
That's
30
how
You have
close
30
we are.
seconds left.
Motion to waive the rules.
Second.
Motion with rules and made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You can continue on. For how much money, how much time are we waiving for? Another 3
When
minutes?
we went before the city,
What's that?
As long as it takes.
Go ahead.
when we went before the city for the school, we had an awful lot of concerns because we lived there. We know what goes on. We know how the traffic is. We tried conveying to the city what our concerns were. All that was important was the school get built. It wasn't about us not wanting a school there. It was about what was going to happen. I have called the city. I have called Amarillo Bus Company because of the speeding on the street. School buses. And when I call Amarillo Bus Company, they say, well, how do you know the bus is speeding? I say, because there is an electronic speed sign out in front of my home. And that bus is full of students, and it's doing 46 miles an hour. And the one behind it was doing 58 in a 30 with children on the bus. Wow. That's not my kid on the bus. If I had an NIMBY attitude, I'd care less. But when that bus flips over in front of my home, because someone from the other side of the street is coming down, isn't going to want to wait for the school bus, that's a bad accident waiting to happen. If we didn't care, we wouldn't say anything. It's my understanding that the issue at Davis Playground is being referred to a subcommittee. After 32 years of going through this and coming before the city council and explaining over and over again what the deed says, what its purposes were for, we're now going to refer this to a subcommittee. As far as I'm concerned, that's just kicking the can down the road. It's wasting time. It's wasting taxpayers' money. Or you can do all the studies you want. Everything has been given to you for proof that these are the issues. They are legitimate concerns, not just for the neighborhood, but for the entire city, because we have people coming there who aren't just from Fall River. They're from Connecticut, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. That's what we cleaned up there, and the Fall Police Department cleaned up there. They cleaned up an area where people thought it was okay to come and molest a child out in front of my home. That's on video. That's what's given to the DA. I am not going to give my videos to be shown in a public forum. They went to the proper authorities, and they did their job. I understand why people don't want to get involved in their neighborhoods. And they say, well, we can't trust the city, we can't trust the government. Nothing gets done. If you don't come before the people and you don't constantly stay on it, nothing is going to get done. That's, it's a shame. But I can guarantee you that's not going to happen on Meridian Street because we care about our neighborhood. We care about the people that come in it. I have people that come from all over the city to use that playground. I meet them all. I have snacks for their kids. I have treats for their dogs. I don't have a pet anymore. I still have treats for their dogs. I had a girl show up at my house last year who's been coming since she was little, just learning how to walk. She came to my house last year, didn't recognize her. I said, "Who are you?" She said, "I used to come here every day with my father. I wanted to let you know I'm in college now." If we had a NIMBY attitude, they wouldn't come knock at my door. I had to put up a no trespassing sign on my tree so people wouldn't come in my yard. Because they're coming in my front yard, they're picnicking on my front yard, they're doing whatever they want in my front yard. They're breaking my fence, they're urinating all over the place. When they go in the playground and there's no bathrooms back there, where do you think they're going? They're taking it and they're throwing it over my fence. Now, I hear they want to put pickleball and golf and everything back there.
May I, Councilor Kamara?
Nobody said that.
I know you're doing a great job articulating what you'd like. Where are you in relation to the Davis Park? In relation to it? Because you go down Meridian Street, you have that little entrance, then it loops around. So where are you?
I'm right there in the front, on the side of the playground. I'm at
Okay, so right in front.
813.
Oh, so you're on the south side. If I'm facing the park.
I'm on the east side of Meridian Street.
Okay. All right, so you're right there near the entrance, not across the street, on the same side.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I understand there's an ordinance in the city that golfing is illegal in the playground. This is what I get when I go out in my backyard. I have golf balls flying at my head. Do you understand what our frustration is?
Just want to say a point of clarification. No one ever spoke about golf for that park, just so you know.
Or pickleball, or
There was-
football.
there was- I mentioned frisbee golf, which is playing with a frisbee, completely different. But again, what the councilors mentioned at the last meeting were just ideas that was thrown out there in a session like this. There was no meeting that was held to pinpoint exactly what that park would be used for. So I just want to make it clear. But you are well beyond the time allowed. Do you want to continue? Do you want to wrap it up?
I would like to ask every board and every committee in this city, everybody knows it's the lady on Meridian Street. So when you're having your meetings and your board meetings to discuss what you want to do in a neighborhood, our neighborhood is willing to listen. As long as we are respected and our input is respected and heard, we should not have to watch a city council meeting on TV of people being made fun of. My daughter heard that.
Yeah, I don't recall
And
anyone
she
being made
knew
fun
it
of,
was
but
me they were talking about.
Thanks for coming.
thank you so much. Next, we have Betty Calhoun, subject matter Meridian Street, Davis Park.
Hi, my name is Betty Cahoon. I live at 845 Meridian Street. My house is adjacent to the park. I'm on the left-hand side of the lane. My grandmother was Charlotte Davis Cahoon. She gave the land to the park, gave the land to the city for the park. I agree with Nancy. I called my brother John Jr. Cahoon. I also called my sister, Priscilla Anderson Cahoon. My brother lives in Rhode Island. My sister lives in South Carolina this weekend. They're also in agreement that it should be a passive recreational park. The ideas of the park would be a green space where there would be picnicking and relaxation. Going up you would actually have to walk up the park lane, up to the back of the park. You'd be able to watch birds, listen to the birds. Have you ever just took time and listened to birds? Walk around and enjoy Mother Nature and play games. My grandmother used to love to play badminton. That's kind of like one of the games that's from the past. My grandmother used to love nature. She used to love watching birds. Baseball games are good too. However, no leagues. That's what one of the problems were. They used to have people incorporated go up and play games up in the park when my father was living. However, they used to have the permits for it. Then another group used to go up, they didn't have permits for it. The poor kids from People Incorporated ended up coming down from the lane because they couldn't play because the other kids pushed them out, which wasn't fair. That didn't set right with my dad. With it being a green space, you could play catch, you could play other kinds of games. You could also fly a kite because there's enough space up there. You could also relax, read a book under a tree. Also, just go up and relax, sit and enjoy Mother Nature. It is a beautiful space at any time of the year. We have 4 seasons. Autumn is fantastic up there with all the trees. Even in the wintertime, it's really pretty. Even in the spring, when you're seeing the buds come out, and even in the summertime, it's nice and cool. And even the walking trails that Nancy said. You've done the walking trails when you go down Wilton Road and you take the left and you go that walking trail. Why not some walking trails through the reservation as well? People a lot of times will park at the bottom of the...
You have 30 seconds, please.
Okay. But it's really, my grandmother loved Mother Nature. She loved the birds. And it's a wonderful place for that. That was her idea of a park. When talking with my brother and my sister. That's what her idea of a park was. Not these fancy things with whatever you want to do. Not permits, not a parking lot, not a road going into there, because that is a fire lane. There's nowhere near enough space for you guys to put a road up in there. And the gate to that park should be shut at all times and not open. And people can walk into that park.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I, Council President?
Sure, Council.
I very seldom talk during citizen input, but I put this resolution in, and we spoke on the phone, right, Ms. Calhoun?
Once or twice.
We
yes.
spoke on the phone once or twice, and when I went up there with the mayor, you came outside and we had a nice conversation.
Mhm.
And I think what you read is beautiful.
Mhm.
I really
Thank
do.
you.
So I would just say, don't listen to rumors, don't listen to roads, don't listen to lights, don't listen to all that. And, yeah, I don't want to go on with this, but it's my resolution. I put it in, it's going to be referred to a committee, the Finance or Health and Human Services. But I'll save my comments when the resolution comes, but what you just read, I think is wonderful. Because I envision just keeping it like it is, but just improving it a little bit. Students from up the street at the Sylvia School can have field trips. It just makes sense.
The thing is, we need to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
We don't need to hear through a council meeting. We need to be
I agree.
involved
Very good.
instead of hearing it, hearsay, and through hearing, through your meetings. We need to be, you need to be upfront with us.
What
Say,
you
hey,
wrote
we
is,
have this.
what you wrote is wonderful, so thank you.
And you're lucky my grandmother's not here. She was a Spitfire, and she was loud, and she was a.
So are you.
Thank you
Not
so
like
much.
me, and I don't like talking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Antero, subject matter President Avenue construction problems.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening.
Members of the council. My
Welcome.
name is Sherry Antello. I am a resident at 1276 President Avenue, and I come to you tonight with some grave concerns about the construction project that's been happening. I have suffered some pretty severe damage to my home, so have my neighbors, and we're concerned on who's going to fix our problems. So I come to you tonight really to, what I do in life really is when there's a problem that's happened to me, I come to prevent someone else from going through the same issues that I have. President Avenue has been under construction since April, and it's still not complete. We had no communication about this project or the scope or the depth of how bad our lives would be for these months. I bring to you the communication that I received. This is the first letter that came in April that stated a water main would be replaced. Okay, water main, sounds great. I like water. Let's have clean water. No. Then it was, we're gonna have a couple bypasses for your house. We need to get in, we need to put the bypasses in. This is the extent of the communication that I've had. Sorry. Ooh, so sorry. This is the communication. Next thing, I come home one day, and at night, all of a sudden, 8 o'clock, here come construction crews. The place is lit up like Fenway. I go out to the street, and I asked to speak to the foreman. I said, "Excuse me, sir, what time do you guys cut out at night?" "Oh, we're not cutting out, we're working overnight." I said, what is your definition of overnight? 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. I live between Spencer Borden and Truesdale at the crest of the hill. My bedroom is approximately 10 feet from the street. There were jackhammers all night. The trucks were digging up the street. It was a disaster. So what's happened to my house now, when they dug up the sidewalks, is they took backhoes and slammed the backhoes on the sidewalk to break the sidewalk to put the new sidewalk in. Now, I'm not a construction worker, but, that's pretty heavy, severe noise and damage. I now have water coming into my house every rainstorm. Last night, I had a good puddle in my cellar. I've lived in my home for 12 years. I've never had water. My next-door neighbor has a disabled child. At times, they would not communicate with us when the street was going to be opened or closed. The child is nonverbal autistic. She had to get the child out of the house and was not informed in time to get the child to school. When I tell you this has been absolute hell for this neighborhood, last week they started jackhammering up the manhole covers. Now, they have one black coat tar down, nothing is complete, and they filled it in, and there's now pipes coming out of the street with holes around it that everyone's hitting all night long. I would like you to imagine living in my house, sleeping in my bedroom, and hearing noise every single night. This has, again, been going on since April. I spoke to the foreman. He was unprofessional to me. He spoke down to me. I would never treat another human being in that manner. I asked to speak to him again. He came to my house. He stuck this little card on a nail on the front of my house asking to speak to me regarding the damages to my house. If the wind had come and this card had blown away, I never would have been able to be in touch with him. Came to my house to explain to me why my house wasn't constructed properly and what I needed to do to fix my house, and that I needed to prove to him how the city did the damages by this work. He spoke down to me like I was a degenerate or didn't understand what house construction was, living in my house for 12 years. The water never came in my house before this project began. So I come to the council today to ask, not only for myself, but for the rest of my neighbors, who is going to pay for these damages that we've incurred? The house down at the bottom of the hill across from Spencer Borden had sewage backing up into their basement because they hit the sewer line.
Ms. Santel, your time is up, but the conversation you have is extremely serious. I just talked to the clerk. We're going to file a resolution to have this item referred to the Committee of Public Works and Transportation and bring everyone in that's part of that project to see what has been going on, why it's been so long, what they plan on doing, and then all the other questions that you have, you will be invited to that meeting, and as well as any of your neighbors, and we can discuss it further there, because this is a simple time. We appreciate your input, letting us know what's going on, but I think that would be the right course of action to take at this point, instead of being able to discuss it here, because we limited time, and the people responsible for what's going on are not present. So I think the right thing to do is I'll file a resolution. I told the clerk to write it up. We're gonna have it voted on this meeting tonight, and then you'll get a phone call or whatever way you want us to get in touch with you to let you know, and neighbors as well invited to that meeting. Okay?
Thank you for
Great,
coming.
greatly
Appreciate it. Thank you very
I
much.
do have
Thank you.
photo evidence too of everything that's been happening.
You can
as
bring
we
that to
go
the, you can
along.
give it to the clerk
Bring it to
now
the
for the
next
meeting, or you can
Yeah.
bring it with you, whatever you like to do.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
for your time, everyone.
Or you can
Appreciate
give
it.
to the clerk, if you'd like, and she'll
And I'm sure the committee chairperson will schedule that meeting as soon as possible.
I will.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure.
Pick me.
Next, we have Chief Timothy Olivera. Subject matter, response times.
Good evening, Council. I received an email this afternoon from a concerned citizen from the Maplewood Park area. I believe all of you received that email. So there are a couple issues with that. One, I wasn't able to respond to the email today because I was out of the office, but I did get it this afternoon.
Mr. Oliver, could you speak into the microphone?
Sure. Is that
Thank
better?
you.
So, one, this gentleman, Mr. Bigelow, talks about a mental health clinician for EMS. I have no idea what that's for. That's not for EMS. We've never talked about a mental health clinician within the EMS department. So that part of it, I'm not sure if the lines got confused a little bit, but I can assure you that EMS is not interested in adding any mental health clinicians at this time. It's never been a discussion in my office.
Excuse me, yours was a medical outreach.
It's a mobile integrated health coordinator, correct? So there might be some confusion with that. As for the response times in the ambulance, that was, went to the central station and is not at the Candeas anymore. I have packets, if any of you want them, that show all the response times from all of 2022 and 23 to date. There is a small increase in the response time to Maplewood neighborhood, 9 seconds. That's the actual increased response time on an average. We average 4 minutes, 9 seconds. And on a citywide response, whether it's the north truck going south, or south going north, or even mutual aid to other towns, we average 7 minutes and 2 seconds. And that's all in the packet that I can hand you tonight. I can assure you that if there was any increase in response time to any neighborhood in the city, I would address it immediately. And as for the shutting down of ambulances, do we shut down an ambulance at night? We do, not every night, but we do. Yes, I do. We have 69 paramedics. This particular week, I have 3 out with COVID, 1 out with appendicitis, 3 on vacation, plus personal days. Yeah, if I had to staff that truck at night too, I'd be ordering in 4 paramedics after their 24-hour shift that they completed. What I do is I order in for the peak time during the day, and then at night, I'll let it go down at 5:30 till 7:30 in the morning. However, we still have 5 rescues in service for the city for the night shift. And on the analysis, it'll show you that on the night calls, the calls do reduce. The peak times are usually during the day, up to about 8 o'clock at night. So yes, between 5:30 and 8, yes, the crews do work harder. But there's no gap in service. I would never allow that. Secondly, for the mutual aid, last year we did 24,400 calls for transports. That's actual transports to the hospital, about 29,000 calls for service. Out of that, last year, 521 calls went to mutual aid. That's 2.5% of our call volume. That's pretty good. You'd never be able to have, you could have 15 ambulances on. You'd never be able to cover every single call. It's impossible. But I do have all the analysis for you. And if there's any other concerns, please reach out. I will reach out to this gentleman tomorrow personally, and if I have to, I'll go to the neighborhood meeting and try to touch base with them and hopefully clear up, whatever's going on. The other issue in here was putting out-of-service signs on the ambulance. Yes, they were. I did address the out-of-service signs on the ambulance. I think it's a risk, because now when someone looks in that window and it says out of service, is the fire station out of service? Is the truck out of service? And they're banging on the door for help. Or they put the out of service sign on the fire station. Is the station out of service? So, yes, I had a huge issue with that.
Chief
I
Alvarez,
do.
can you try to wrap it up, please?
Yep, and as for me telling people not to talk about not staffing in the ambulance, untrue. Never told any paramedic on the job or firefighters, nor that they speak to me anyways, that not to talk about it. That's total nonsense, absolute nonsense. But if there's ever an issue, please reach out to me, and I can address it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have John Brandt, subject matter, Bank Street Armory.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to, I guess a month ago, your last meeting, I had a meeting. My name's John Brandt, 116 Rock Street. I'm on the CPA board. These are my viewpoints. I'm the chairman, but these are my viewpoints. We did have a meeting with my vice chair, and the day of your last meeting, we decided I didn't know it was going to meet on the Armory. We thought, well, it was a good idea to have a discussion on the Bank Street Armory. So I stopped in, and that project would have fell under Al Oliveira from DCM's oversight. So I went in and spoke with him about bonding for the Bank Street Armory. And I said we'd be willing to do something like $5 to $7 million. And he thought, we discussed the pluses and minuses, staffing, utilities, everything. But he thought it was a good idea to take it up to the mayor's office. And the mayor actually called me that day to discuss it a little further. Then after the meeting, we had 2 further discussions. We did have discussed this at our last board meeting, so it's not anything we were kind of sliding by. And a lot of the members were in favor of bonding. And we didn't know that it might be 10 million, but we even kicked that around. But what that comes with that is we started looking into the process of if we did that. One, it would change CPA's face for 10, 15 years with nonprofits. So we would lose that, but we thought the benefits of maybe saving a historic building would be good. So we had 2 further conversations with the mayor, and we talked about what building would be used for, utilities, staffing. Can you maintain it after we fix it? I mean, if we bond it and fix it, we want to make sure it's going to be maintained. And those are some big issues that, we talked about. Then I sat down and talked with Mr. Macumber about his ideas. And my main focus there was the outside of the building was not going to change. It was going to stay historic. And so then I had another conversation with the mayor, and I said, I don't think you can guarantee us keeping the building up to snuff, because we've never been really good at maintaining public buildings. I mean, that's not this administration's fault. It goes back years after years. And staffing it, and then you're looking at $1 million, and you in payroll, coming up with events to do, whatever we're going to do with the building. So we just kind of thought, yeah, it could be touchy on our end. And our main thing is saving the building. So I recommend to the mayor that our best thing would be Macumber taking the building over. Otherwise, you're going to have a police station kind of happening, and it's like, do you want to move forward now, or do you want this to continue? If we didn't wait so long, we might have been able to do something, but now it's just, I don't think it's feasible for us to come in and not being guaranteed if the building would be maintained as we'd want it. I mean, because we're basically spending taxpayers' money, so I don't want that to come back on us saying like, nonprofits suffered for 10, 15 years while we put into this building and then it fell back into display. So I just wanted to bring that forward and let you know that we did seriously want to, you know, I hate to see losing a historic building, but I think this would be the best way. You know, eventually we'll get tax revenue, which that's not our thing. We don't care about that, but the other things, we couldn't be assured that the city would maintain the building, staff it, turn it into something. It's just a big risk for us to take, so I don't know if you had any questions, but.
Thank you so much. Council C2, Council Dion.
Yeah, I just have one question and one comment. One of my biggest concerns with this is, again, as you mentioned, taxpayer dollars. A significant amount of taxpayer money has gone into that building. I don't agree with that building being sold for less than what the taxpayers have invested in that building, at the least.
Yeah.
That dollar amount should be paid, and I don't know if in the past the CPA has had monies returned that they've put into buildings or not.
We have a, right now it's, once it goes past 5 years, if you sell before the 5-year mark, you have to pay us back. This, we did that grant back 8 years ago, so it's saved the roof and saved the building, so.
But wasn't there something done more recently?
No, they have applied, but, they put in an application, but it was denied. We didn't, fund that one. So.
What was the application for?
I forget what other work they wanted to do, but, we just didn't feel it was right because there was no direction on what they wanted to do with the building. So it was just gonna be throwing more money at a building that was sitting there. So we didn't feel
Sitting
it
there,
was
but
right.
with saving, but not with investing in the saving of it.
Yeah.
I
And the
still
money
feel
you
that
put-
I still feel that somehow the taxpayer dollars should be reimbursed, no matter what, to be used for something that is either gonna offset cost for the taxpayers or go into a separate project that's gonna, you know, benefit the community. But to sell it for less than, I just can't agree with that. That I have a hard time with. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Thank you. Council C3, Council Kilby.
Yes, what's your total, per year, the total money that goes into your program?
Well, we've been fortunate over the years, we've had a surplus come down. This year, the governor decided to spend $42 million a month elsewhere, so we're not getting any surplus money. So where we'd be normally around 2 million, we're gonna be around 1.1. That's after we pay for the central fire station, the fire station museum, and we're just finishing one more year of, I think, the rail trail.
Okay, so your allowance you get from the taxpayers, 1.1 million per year.
Right, yeah.
And.
We normally
I
have around
understand
funding
that this
around
project,
2.2.
In order to rehab the project, it's like 13 million. So there's gonna be other projects that would suffer, obviously, not suffer, but it wouldn't be fulfilled.
It would take
wouldn't
away
be spread
from,
out along, you know.
it would take away from the nonprofits, you know, like the art museum we're doing, we'd have to stop that. Parks, we'd have to, you know, it's seriously cut into that. So
Okay.
we did look into that, we were willing to do it, but not having the guarantee of being maintained and staffed and use of the building, we just could not see us
So
voting on that.
are you speaking for your entire group, your board?
This is not, it's not the board, but this will all come to, when it will come to the meeting, these things will come up. And, you know, the feel for the board, we were willing 7, but with no, it's tough to pass.
Yeah, correct. It's
you
uncertain.
know.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I hate to see it, you know, not do it, but I think this would be the best way to save the building.
Coming from you, that means a lot, Mr. Brandt. Thank you, Mr. President. for your
Thank
patience
you.
with me. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No, I'll hold my questions till
I agree,
it
Councilman.
comes up for discussion on the
Thank you,
floor.
Mr. Brett.
I have a lot of
Appreciate it.
questions.
Thank
All
you.
right.
not
Next, we
on the
have
agenda.
Alan Macumber, subject matter, Bank Street Armory. I need a motion motion to waive the rules.
Motion to waive the
Not a
rules.
resident. Motion to waive the rules has been made. Is there a second? Hold on, Alan. Is there a second? It's not a Florida resident. We need a motion to waive the rules. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, you can proceed. You have 3 minutes, like everyone else.
I hadn't even thought about not being able to sit here and speak to you this evening. That would have been quite the thing. Good evening.
Good
For the
evening.
record, I'm Alan Macumber. I reside in Westport, Massachusetts. But I am a partner in the redevelopment that we did at Commonwealth Landing.
Motion to waive the rules?
We did.
We did already, I'm sorry.
And I recently transformed the Durfee Tech Building. It's now called the Creative Class. I was a sole bidder in for the Bank Street Armory when the city RFP came out. And my interest in that is obviously to complete the redevelopment, but it is across the street from a major investment that I made in the city. And currently it's sort of like in disrepair, so I'd like to see it be finished. On March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, I submitted a proposal to the city. I was kind of told it would take 60 days to review it and forward it to the council for an award or a rejection. It's been 6 months. It's a long time.
Who told you that? It was gonna take 30 days.
It's in your, it's in the package that came out.
No, I mean, you said it was gonna take 60 days. Someone had told you that.
He's saying it was in the RFP.
It's in the RFP.
I thought someone had told you it would be all signed and taken care of in 60
No,
days.
no. I'm not talking about any off the record conversations. I'm just talking about the documentation
I misunderstood. I apologize.
that was submitted. What I'm here for tonight is to respectfully ask that you take a vote, one way or the other, yes or no. I've engaged an architect, an engineering firm, historical preservation consultant, and a general contractor. I spent money preparing the proposal that you see in front of you. It wasn't just a fly-by-night kind of proposal on city forms. Now, I need to start writing additional checks in order not to lose my development team. They don't think it's going to happen. It's taken this long. They participated in the costing exercise and design exercises, and the general feeling is it's not going to materialize for them. So again, I ask you just either reject my proposal, accept my proposal, or reject it. I do have comments on that if it was rejected. I think there's a strong possibility that the building would be condemned and eventually demolished. I think it's a loss to the city, and it'd be forever. You know, I think of the idea of coming up with $14 million of city funds to save the Armory and another $500,000 a year to run it, when there's a real viable alternative on the table. You know, it just seems like financial malpractice to me to go and spend that kind of money when you can save the exterior of the building and preserve it for future generations. You know, if it's rejected and you proceed to spend or cobble together the $14 million, in my opinion, it's just going to simply ebb and flow through the election cycle. You know, it's just from one administration to another, from one city council to another. You know, it's just it's gonna go back and forth. And some of you may have differing opinions about that, and you know, maybe we just agree to disagree on what would happen if my proposal was rejected. The other thing is, you could ask the administration to rebid the project. I think that'd be a fool's errand. I really do. First, I submitted my best proposal. I'd ask myself, why would I ever bid again? You know, not going to compete against myself. I gave you the best shot. And second, I doubt you'd find a reputable developer with a skill set that could top my offer. And so I eventually...
You have 30 seconds left, Mr. Macumber.
Sorry. I'll try to finish up quickly. Eventually, you have an offer to consider an inferior offer. I'm stepping to the plate. I'm investing $6 million in debt and equity. I'm going to spend 3 years negotiating a maze of historical preservation and housing programs to secure another $9 million to finish the job. In addition, the administration has asked me to make 20% of the apartments affordable. And with a preference for veterans, I agreed. Let me just explain what a preference for veterans means in the terms and context of affordable housing. Only veterans will be qualified and enter into a lottery to award the apartments. Only veterans. But if there are more apartments than qualified veterans, a second lottery will be held for all other income-qualified applicants to secure an apartment. Simply put, HUD and DHCD would not allow me to hold vacant apartments if there is not enough demand from veterans. There's a ton of redevelopment, architectural challenges, financial challenges, that are too numerous to mention in this particular project. I hope we can work together to really make it, the building stand for another century and be a sentinel to the gateway of the city of Fall River. And I'm in no way trying to burn my bridges tonight. I do a lot of work in the city, I really don't. I'm not lobbying for your vote one way or the other. I'm just simply requesting you take a vote, and that's what I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
Just want to clarify one thing for the record. When did you submit your proposal? What you said, March?
March 17th.
Okay. I just want you to be aware that this council received the proposal for the first time July 18th. We did not see it in March, we did not see it in April, May, June, or July 18th was the first time it came before this board. On July 18th, it was referred to the August meeting, and now here we are at the next meeting. So if there's been a delay in this process, has not been by any member of the city council. We did not receive that proposal back when you submitted it initially. Thank you very much, Mr. McComo. Just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kelly Buchanan, subject matter, illegal encampments. Again, you have 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
May I approach the council to give you guys, I made copies of the codes and ordinance.
If you want to just give it to the clerk, she can pass them out, and then you can start your 3 minutes. That's fine.
Thank you.
And if you pass those out for her, please.
Good evening. I'm here tonight as a follow-up from my last appearance on August 15th, 2023. Thank you. I'm sorry. Good evening. I'm here tonight for a follow-up to my last appearance on August 15, 2023, about the illegal encampments in our community. But before I start, I would like to publicly apologize to Michelle Dion, as I did call her out on the last meeting for being one of the 4 counselors not to return my phone call. Ms. Dion did contact me after the last meeting. She was dealing with a family emergency, which she did explain to me, and did apologize to me for the delay in her call. I would also like to add Ms. Dion has been in contact with me and even took a tour of the illegal encampment in my community. So again, I apologize, Michelle, and I, along with my community, want to thank you for your sincere concern for our community and the dangers we are currently facing. I would also like to recognize Brad Kilby, as he did approach me and apologize to me after the last meeting for not returning my call. So thank you, I appreciate that. I'm here tonight simply to check the progress of my previous grievance about the illegal encampments. Since the last meeting, the illegal encampments have grown by more than 3 times the size. So since my first time down there till now, it's grown 3 times the size. Have any of you had the time to look into my grievance since the last meeting? And if you haven't, are you planning on tackling the issue? Please advise. Does anybody want to?
This is just.
We have, that's item 4 on the agenda today.
There's a resolution on the agenda.
Yeah, there's a resolution.
All right, awesome, thank you. And my other question was, has any progress been made to resolving and adhering the code violations and the criminality part of, that our community is currently facing? As some of you may or may not know, sadly, our community is not the only community dealing with these illegal encampments. After speaking with other residents in the city, These illegal encampments are taking over our city. The Maplewood Park area, the rail trail behind the Liberal Club, just to name a few. We're requesting that the sit-in city council take action so the laws, codes, and ordinances are enforced. I thank you guys for your time in this very important matter.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Council C2, Council Dion.
So sometimes there's confusion in terms of what our authority and our powers are. There are things we can and can't do. Enforcement isn't something we can do. However, we can be a voice, and we can let the community know our opinion. I went to the camp. You're right. There are people in there that absolutely don't want to be in there, shouldn't be in there, and if we had affordable housing in this city, they wouldn't be there.
I agree.
And you are correct. The encampments have become a community issue. When people are having things stolen out of their yards and it's affecting their lives, a line needs to be drawn. It is on our agenda tonight. You know, I think it's time, as I said before, it's time for a hand up instead of hand out. We need to tackle the issues, and we need to try to make everything better for the entire community, not just the people that are in the encampments. And hopefully, the conversation tonight will start moving in that direction. And as I say, the only thing we can do, like you, is be a voice. And then it's up to the people with the authority to make changes.
And that's what we're asking. We're asking, I get you guys, your hands are tied for so much, but you guys, the taxpayers pay for you guys to be our voice. I'm not a public speaker, this isn't in my wheelhouse, but I'm here because my community, we need it. And I get the people that are living in these encampments, it's awful. No human being should live like they're living. They're living like animals. I've seen it, it's awful. But it's still.
Some of those people were viable people in our community.
Yes.
And they've just been priced out, and that's a shame. Nobody should be left behind, nobody should be priced out.
I definitely agree with that, but they cannot live like this. You got to see firsthand, you saw the drug, the needles. This is what our kids are faced and playing in parks. So like I said to you all before, I'm kind of, unfortunately, the spokesperson for my community, and I'm gonna stay at this because I love my community, I love my city, and our city is burning down. And we're 3 blocks away with garden hose trying to poke it out. It's not gonna work. We can't worry about what other communities are doing. We have to take action now. Because in no time, we're gonna be like Seattle, Portland. It's happening right before us.
I
So
agree.
we have to do something now. And I know they wanna build all these market rate apartments. That's another thing. People can't afford market rate in this city. We need affordable, like you said. But what happens when you push landlords like me out? Now more people are gonna face the same situations others are facing.
Exactly, and that's why
So I'm
action
ju-
needs to be
I-
taken. We
I
need a plan, and we
apologize.
need to take action, period.
I apologize, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm gonna be here every time until I see some progress. You know, I'm not trying to be anything more than save my community.
No apology necessary.
That's why I said I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And I don't wanna be a pain in the neck, but I'm gonna be a thorn in everyone's side until
When you're
this problem
fighting for
is
your
solved.
community, and when you're fighting to
Fighting for
make
our
the
city.
lives better for people, that's not being a
Absolutely.
pain.
I have an
That's being a
option.
human being who cares.
I have the option. I can just leave and say, and forget about it. But what about everybody else? That's the coward way out. I'm just asking for you guys to put pressure on the mayor, put pressure on the governor. I don't care who you have to put pressure on. That's what you're in this position for. That's what you're here for. You're here to serve us, the people. We need our city saved. There's so much happening. We need our city saved. That's what I'm asking for. So
Thank you.
again, I thank you guys for your
Thank you so
time. I
much.
do.
Thanks, Kelly.
Just want to put my 2 cents in. I know Council Dion said if we had affordable housing, I think Florida is one of the most top in the state as far as taking care of people, as far as affordability and low-income people.
It's
If
Florida.
other communities
Not
had as
anymore.
much affordable housing as we had, that problem wouldn't be as big as it is right now. Other communities have dropped the ball a lot more than we have, by far.
And I can't disagree with you or agree with you because I don't know, but all I do know is the last, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, I see all these proposals for Alden Street, Duro, and other places where these companies want to come in and buy up the mills and make market-priced apartments. Well, market-priced apartments, I talk to real estate agents, because I don't know, because my apartments aren't market rate. They're well below. So I talk to other real estate agents, $1,200 for a one-bedroom apartment, it might not be a lot of money to perhaps you or
Oh, no, no,
me,
it's a lot of money, period.
but it's to a single mom with, you know, a child, that's a lot of money.
I agree. The point I'm making in this conversation we can have in another committee, but the point I'm making is that $1,200 in Fall River for one bedroom or two bedroom is $1,800 in other communities not far from Fall River, and that's the problem. There's not enough affordable low-income housing going on in other communities in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And we have more public housing and low-income housing, and we will continue to take care of as many people as possible.
Why
Mr.
don't we
Diaz
invest
in the
in
audience
buying
now, and
these
he can
mills?
prove it.
If these companies are coming in and buying them and turning them around, why don't we, as a taxpayer, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, you know, we're building schools and I get the need for it.
Sure.
Let's take a couple of these
Can
mills,
I-
400 apartments, that's 400 families.
Can I just add in something too? A lot of people that live in Fall River and try to get into low-income housing, because they can,
They're
you
on
know.
wait list.
They're on a
Yes.
wait list, but you have people from other areas coming in. If those other areas, and I'm talking about our neighboring communities.
Correct.
If Somerset, Swansea, Westport, Dartmouth, if they all had low-income housing as well, that would be beneficial. Because if not, people come here. I was at Kennedy Park, and there was a woman there throwing stuff into a barrel. And I had a pile of stuff we were cleaning up from some event. And I said to the lady, could you come over here, put your stuff over here, because they'll clean it, and that way the barrel will be empty for somebody that's in the park. And she told me that she was here going to the shelter. She could only bring one bag. I don't know if that's true or not, but she said she could only bring one bag. That she was originally from Dartmouth. But Dartmouth doesn't have any kind of shelters, so she had to come here to Fall River. She said, you know, that's not fair because I know where I shop, I know my neighbors, I know, you know, Dartmouth better than Fall River, and I'm being thrown because they don't have a shelter. And a lot of the people that live in the encampments, yes, some of them have been priced out, some drug addicted, some have mental health problems. Why did the state shut down Paul Dever, shut down Taunton State, a lot of the units there? There are people who need assistance who cannot live on their own. Where is the mental health? That's the big problem. And nobody wants to address it in this entire country, that mental health is a problem. Just with COVID, you've seen depression with students. Come on. So maybe that's something, you know, if you tell the governor, open up those places.
And the beautiful part of this, you all are on the city council. You guys have the voice where you could potentially make them listen to you. I'm here so you can hear my concerns for my community. You guys have that same ability. Use your title. Get on the phone, the mayor. If he doesn't want to hear it, go above him.
Well, we're going to have a discussion later on about
Thank you
that.
very
And I think
much.
we're going to hear
Thank
a
you.
lot of what he's tried to do relative to that. So
Thank you very much.
I know the city administrator is here and Mr. Dion. But Kelly, thank you again.
Thank
Thanks.
you, guys.
Thank you. Item number 2, fiscal year 2023 quarter 4 budget report.
May I have the floor quickly?
Sure, Council C2, Council
I
Kirby.
listened to citizens' input tonight, and Mr. Malcumber was obviously here, and Mr. Brandt was here. So I'd like to, with some tolerance from the president, I'd like to have the city administrator come down, please, before we get into item 2.
I don't think he's,
I don't think that that's appropriate.
citizens input time, Council, what
What I'm getting at is I think there is an ability for us legally, under our procedural rules with Cushing, I believe, to take a vote on this item. That's all.
if we did, I'd like the other councils to be present. If
I-
that's something. It's not
excuse
only-
me?
If we did, I'd
Council
like to.
Camara, please just indulge me. Please.
Well, you can't bring it down without a vote of the council. Council.
Well, let's have a
I'm
vote
not
of the
voting for
council,
that.
please,
So,
to
first of all,
allow.
I'm not doing anything abnormal. and I don't want the councilors here to do anything.
Well, I'm
abnormal.
making an
If
attempt
you
here.
want someone to come down and speak about something that's not on the agenda, is not prepared to speak of, you have to get a vote from the council. If you want to waive the rules, make that motion to waive the rules, we will have him come down if it's
Thank you,
successful.
sir. Thank you. Motion to waive the rules.
Is there a second to waive the rules?
No
There
second.
being no second, the motion does not carry.
Move the order of
Item
business.
number 2, fiscal year 2023 quarter 4 budget report was referred on July 15th, 23, to whole discussion. Want to come down, please? Do you want to give us a briefing on the fiscal year quarter report, number 4?
So
Fourth
the
quarter
quarter,
report?
the quarter 4 report, it's a little premature to review because this, the timing of it, it's done before all of the year-end entries are done, before the school is finished doing all their entries. So I can tell you this has already changed. What I can tell you is that, I mean, we're, gonna have a surplus, and we have positive, indicators, but all these numbers are not, at this point, they're not accurate for June 30th, because we've already started making all of our final year-end adjustments.
So do you have a more accurate list?
Well, not yet. So as we're going through the process to get free cash certified and to submit our balance sheet and all of the other forms that go to DOR, that's when we will have a final number. But this is, we have to do this report, this quarterly report, and so we do it, and it's just, I'm not in disagreement, it's just not a timely, the timing of it just doesn't.
So when do you think we should do it? What would be your recommendation of when we should do the fourth quarter?
That's when we do so the fourth quarter would be when we do our final year, the year-end numbers that we submit to DLR and our audited numbers.
What would be the point of that if it's year end?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like mid-October.
Okay.
So you're saying you want to come back at the next meeting in October and give us final, updated report?
We would have more accurate numbers at that point, yeah.
Motion to table?
Second. Bring it to October.
Motion to table has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll see you at the next meeting in October. Thank you. Item number 3, discussion with administration and representatives from the Department of Emergency Medical Services, Community Development Agency, and the Homeless and Substance Use Disorder Outreach Services regarding funding and contracting of the mental health clinician. Come down, please.
Okay.
Nick. That way you can face it.
Trust me. I'm out on there a lot. Hey. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
How are you? Good. Thank you. Okay, who wants to start?
Do you want to, Council seat 7, Council Reposo?
Thank you. So this, I just want to clarify one thing. This I sponsored this resolution originally, and this came out of our conversation in our subcommittee regarding, and the question was very brief to the team here and to Mr. Dion as well, as said, what can we do to help support this issue? Because obviously the conversation engaged about affordable housing and a variety of other topics, but one of the questions was, how can we support this process? And one of the things that did come out of this was the suggestion of expanded mental health conditions. So I'm glad all of you are here because I would like to learn a little bit more about how we can help you do the job that you're doing with all the extra details involved. So that's really why we're here. And again, I'm glad all of you are here to give us some information on that. That I yield.
Yes, from that meeting, we had a brief discussion concerning, a mental health clinician. I want to advise you that we do have a mental health clinician starting in the next couple of weeks under our Fall River CARA grant, which is a SAMHSA grant. That person is a contracted employee from Child and Family Services. In speaking with the mayor and talking about this issue, we really want to see how this position is going to really work out. This position is going to be located in the police department in a police vehicle on a daily basis. So before we would think about adding a new clinician, we'd like to see how this first one works out. In speaking with the mayor and determining how to fund maybe a second position, we spoke about the funding that was received from the Purdue Pharma lawsuits. And I know the city is developing a plan for the best usage of that money, and we're going to look at if that money could be used for another clinician. So at this time, my proposal would be is that we just hold on a little bit.
Is that it? Anyone else? Councilor Reposa, you want to continue?
Yeah, my question, and either Mr. Dion or Mr. Aiken, the analysis of that grant from the opioid settlement, what is the timetable on getting the results on that? Feedback, I should say.
So Tess Curran would be here tonight, but she had her baby, which was wonderful for her, and just great news. Everyone's healthy, so that's good. And so she has been working with a consultancy that was brought in to do an initial analysis of how best to set up and then commit the funds from that. As you know, what we're looking at is not just the initial influx of money, but at least for the, I would say, foreseeable 6 to 8 years, several $100,000s a year. That we can expect not just from the first two settlements, but there are additional settlements that are very likely to happen. A good example is the Kroger settlement that actually happened this week. Massachusetts isn't in that because Kroger doesn't operate, but there are many of these, and they're just going after them one after another, and so there will be more money. All that said is that I would say we are maybe 45 to 60 days away from having some reasonably hard direction, some reasonably firm direction, I guess, as to where we want to go with that, at which point I think the mayor's intent is to put together a committee of community partners, of people that are out there doing this work and understand this work, to make recommendations and to vet proposals and to direct the money. I think the way the mayor's thinking about it is this isn't really something that is best served if it's just government doing it, but rather people like Nikki, Mr. Dion down the end, Deputy Fonts. Those folks are engaged in this work on a daily basis, and there's many more people. I think Stephanie Perry is here in the audience. And there's other people who I don't know, and I apologize if I'm leaving you out, but there are so many amazing people doing this work who I think could bring their knowledge to bear, and that's the mayor's intent, I think, is to put together a group of those folks to figure out where this goes from here.
Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor C2, Councilor Dion.
Good evening. I think we all understand that there are many facets to these encampments: mental health, drug addiction, alcoholism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how we get a plan to, and I know there are people who don't want to come out of these camps. There are those that are praying every day they get out, but there are those who truly don't want to come out of the camps, and I understand that as well. I think I'm looking for some direction, a solution to, can we identify the ones that want to come out of the camps, that can come out of the camps, and at least if we start by getting a percentage out, we're dealing with fewer people, and we're dealing with, for instance, as I was saying, with the affordable housing. There are Fall River Rights living in these camps who receive a check, who want housing. Our market has gone up considerably. Yes, do we have the most low-income housing in this area? Absolutely. I get that. We've done more than our share. But the fact remains, I spoke with a gentleman at that camp who gets a check, has applied for housing, and he's number 220 on the list. How does somebody who's living in the woods in a tent who has a check, how do they get put at the bottom of a list? It seems to me we have to find a way to be able to house the people who they're going to pay for the roof over their head. What do we do about that? There has to be hard solutions to some of these types of issues.
I just want to say, too, that one thing is that I'm out there every day in the woods, and you guys don't ever get to hear the stories of the people that we actually place every single day. So for every new one or two person that is entering the encampment because they lost their housing due to it's unaffordable, we are transporting probably 5 people to treatment or to other towns for halfway houses. And Steph and I and some others created the advocacy fund under the mayor's administration for the first time to pay for those types of things, like $300 for 2 weeks in their sober house for the first time ever. Another change is that the city purchased Gelada, which is a database that allows all the agencies to finally work together instead of silos, because we'd have John Doe who just got kicked out of his housing, and they'd sleep in a car for a year before they'd even ask for help or anyone would even encounter them. So now that we have all these agencies listed here, there's about 15 agencies that are working together that now know John Doe came out of Star yesterday and he needs this, this, and this. You know, so we're trying to collaborate to work together, but the one thing is, every time we get someone out of into detox, out of the woods, and then into a sober house, after that, then what? Because we're also seeing there's not enough jobs for people with a Corey, or they don't have an ID, so that's another thing that we broke down the barrier. The city made a deal with the RMV. I was there all day today bringing 3 homeless clients to the RMV. We waived the fee, the $25. We got them a free birth certificate, and now they can actually apply for jobs because they have a state ID. But there's so many facets to this that it's not an easy solution, you know, and more people are losing the housing. But I just wanted to point out, like, there's a lot of people that are being pulled out of the woods on a daily basis, and you guys just don't get those calls because they're happy customers, you know, like,
Well,
their
that's good
life
to
is
hear,
changing.
and perhaps maybe that's a conversation that needs to be had. Maybe people need to be aware of the fact that there are a percentage that are being saved, transported, whatever, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But there's also that population that is not drug addicted, that is not suffering from alcoholism, just can't afford their apartment.
Absolutely.
That should be the easiest fix of all, I would think.
Nothing's
And-
easy, Counselor. It's a very complex issue, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
It's a very, very complex issue. We've been working on this for 3 or 4 years now, very in-depth. What I handed out to you tonight is actually this administration following the 7 principles of addressing encampments. And we've put together and followed those 7 principles, and we keep following them on a daily basis. It's difficult out there. I see the work that Nikki does and Steph Perry does. You know, for every 1 or 2 that we house or get them out of that situation, there's 2 right behind them. We're in the encampments on a daily basis. I mean, we took $2.2 million of CARES Act funding, and we poured it into our homeless new shelter, an outreach program, all kinds of different equipment, vans. We even put a work program together, a pilot work program together, to restore some dignity, human dignity to the homeless issue. We opened the Tomeo Center, which is a day shelter, to bring people off the streets into there, to do basic skills, to do job training. It's just a very, very difficult environment out there right now. And you're right, more and more of the homeless that we see, and I see them, my office sees them on a daily basis. I have people that come up to my office and they hear Mike Dion can do wonders, but I really can't. I can't do any better than Nikki and the group here. People are becoming homeless because rents are out of control. You're talking rents that were $700-800, and people with incomes of $1,200 to $1,400. They were able to afford, even though they were high cost burden for paying rent. It's not like that anymore.
I spoke with a gentleman who had an apartment. His rent was $800 a month. Now the landlord claims their property is waterfront, and his rent now would be $1,800 a month. So he's in an encampment.
And I had one of those a couple of weeks ago, and I ended up getting him into Ship's Cove. I was lucky enough to get him into Ship's Cove, but with the same predicament. But we're just seeing it more and more. It's not stopping.
And it's going to get worse.
I was amazed at some of the statistics I looked prior to coming to this meeting, where homelessness in Massachusetts has doubled since 1990. I mean, you got to make $36 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Some of our members in our community are not going to be in. Can't do it. We're looking at creating more affordable housing through the Community Development Agency. But I can tell you right now, the rents, even with HUD, the HUD maximum rents, because we're tied into an MSA of Providence, Rhode Island, and Fall River, those HUD rents have increased dramatically. I'm seeing HUD rents of $2,000 for a 2-bedroom now. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of our affordable housing stock that I have under agreement right now doesn't start to become unaffordable. And Councilor Kamara is right. I mean, we're above our 10%. Okay, we're a little less than 11, but if you take into consideration our Section 8 programs, our voucher programs, our permanent supportive housing, we're about 28% to 30, I'd say anywhere from 28 to 31% of our units in the city are affordable. And we have 43,500 and something units in the city. So you're looking at a good majority of them are affordable. All I can tell you is as a director of the Community Development Agency, I deal with homelessness every day. My office funds the programs. We're not case management. We have organizations that do that for us. I can tell you that we're doing yeoman's work. I mean, these people are working very, very hard. I heard it tonight about, people being on waiting lists. There's a 5 to 8 year waiting list to get a voucher. And that list is not just for Fall River. That list is statewide. So there's thousands and thousands of people on that list. And there's a big waiting list now to get into federal housing and also state housing. This isn't going to stop. Like you said, it's probably going to get worse. And we're working as hard as we can to stop what's happening. I gave you some information on what we've used our home money with, our emergency shelter grant money with. We also received some home art money, which is about $4 million. We need to use that for homelessness, so we're looking at a couple of buildings in the city that would provide substantial housing, something in the 15 to 20 unit range. But it's expensive. Creation of affordable housing is very expensive. It's not like it was 5-10 years ago. So I don't want you to think we're just laying down and letting things
Well,
happen.
no, it's not a
We're-
case of that, but you would just think that, if you have something solid, that somehow, somewhere, there's gotta be a piece that we can address now, and, I mean, if you get 2% out of the camps, we're getting somewhere.
We're getting more than 2% out. I can tell you that. We're just getting more in.
When you talk to people who were viable members of society, who were the backbone of Fall River once upon a time, and now they're living under those conditions. There was a gentleman, I was speaking with people there, and this gentleman looked at me and he asked me a question. I said, no, I was a coach at a particular baseball field years ago. I coached little league, minor league with that gentleman, and he looked at me and said, I know, you were my coach. And then he went on to coach and to be a vice president of a league and a mentor. And where is he today? The community, it just kills me to see that happen to people. I don't know, that's not the country we live in. We take people in from all over the world and house them, and ours are in the woods. That kills me.
One of the hardest lessons that
Speak into the microphone, please.
people to learn is that they have to look for services before they're evicted. So if they get an eviction notice,
Could you please try to speak into the microphone so the people at home can hear you?
they need to.
Beth, can you please speak into the microphone? Thank you.
They need to look for Catholic Social Services and people to try to keep them in their apartment prior to them getting evicted, because once they're evicted, they have that eviction on their record, and then it's very hard for them to even get into affordable housing or any kind of housing situation. So if they get an eviction notice, or they know they're going to be evicted from their apartment, there are places like Catholic Social Services and other services that will help them make up that deficit, so hopefully they can retain their apartment. That's the biggest thing, because once they have the eviction, then it's almost impossible. Like, that's when you're the hamster on the wheel, right? Trying to get you onto a new list and to try to get you into affordable housing. And then there's the fuel assistance programs, and the Tomeo Center is awesome in trying to help them with trying to get fuel assistance and energy assistance and trying to help retain their health insurance. So there are so many people. There's a cog in the wheel. Stephanie Perry's out there doing wound care and taking care of people's health and services. Everybody's trying to do their own little bit. It's just the close. We can close for 2% of the people, but then there's another person that's looking to take their place. And it's true they're not all Fall River residents, but what's the solution for that?
Right. And I think also, moving forward, so people are listening to you, so they're hearing you. Okay, if I'm going to get evicted, I should not walk out of my apartment because now I put myself in a worse situation. I'm sure a lot of these people were just blindsided. They've never been in this situation, had no idea that they could fight. They just thought, I have no recourse.
But I'm just saying, as the voice, as the city council, if somebody reaches out to you, I've had councilors reach out to me, if they're reaching out to you because they're in that situation, then they're better preemptively than they are if it's already happened. So if somebody reaches out and they've got an eviction notice and the rent's being raised, okay, now's the time before you have that eviction on your record to try to find a solution to your problem. Does that make any sense?
Sure it does.
If I may.
Yes.
I think to look at this as just a Fall River problem that we need to address ourselves as a city by ourselves is an enormous mistake, because as Mike said, we have 11% affordable. When you add in all the other programs, it skyrockets up to 30 to 40% affordable. If you look at Swansea and Somerset, they're at about 3.5% each. Westport, on the other side, is about the same. And not to say that other towns aren't doing their share.
They aren't.
But for way too long, I think people have seen Fall River as, oh, well, you send those folks to Fall River, go to Fall River. Like, it's been this idea that, well, those are the nice towns and we're Fall River. Well, that's garbage. That's terrible. And frankly, if you look at the services that this city is providing to its unhoused residents, and frankly, as well as the people with homes, the things that we're trying to do with a proportionally much smaller set of resources than most of those other towns, we are doing incredible yeoman's work with the homeless and in the city and in the parks and in facilities and trying to do a lot of this stuff. More affordable housing essentially reduces that tax base. That's a terrible thing, to reality, to have to confront. But it ends up, you know, the suggestion is if we do more affordable housing, well, okay, now we're going to do even more with even less. We need to make it a regional issue because the other towns are not doing their share. They're not participating in this with us, and we've been participating more than our share for way too long. These people need the help. We're doing everything we can to provide it to them, but it's not just a Fall River problem.
And I don't disagree with you on that, so then the question becomes, how do we make it a regional problem? How do we force people who don't want to step up to the plate to step up to the plate?
So in terms of forcing people, I don't know that you can. In terms of what this mayor has done, I mean, he is in those camps all the time. He's
No, I'm
talking to
talking
these
about
people.
regionally,
No,
other towns.
I understand, but in terms of leadership, right? You know, trying to lead by example. You know, what the team that's in this room is doing, and I take no credit for any of it. They're amazing, and I'm really not really a part of it. The mayor is the one driving it, along with some really thoughtful and capable individuals. You know, just doing it by example clearly hasn't worked because the other folks, you know, from, you know, our next door neighbors haven't looked up and said, geez, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to invest in affordable housing. So it may be time to, you know, for leaders, the leaders in this room, our legislative leaders and the leaders in the sixth floor, to collectively reach out and say, hey, you know, let's address this together. That may be the next step because I think we've done everything. And when I say we, the administration, Mike, the mayor, the folks at this table and up in the audience, that you can possibly do just to set a remarkable example and doing so much more than they should ever be expected to do with so little. Maybe an explicit request is the next thing, and I would include this council in making that request. You know, can we all together say, hey, you know, let's do this regionally as opposed to just on our own? It's not working.
Well, I think then we should do it. I mean, that's simple. And I don't want anybody to misconstrue my statements or my questions as being critical of anybody. I think it's just reacting and responding to such an awful situation. You know, I mean, we're talking human beings.
You
I
know-
don't, my dogs have a better life than most people. How do we let people fall through like that?
You know, Seth brings up an excellent point. One of the things on the state level is discharge planning policy. We all have one, but is it enforced on a state level? No, it's not. Because I can tell you last week, 3 people showed up from the Bristol House of Correction at our shelter on Durfee Street, asking for a room. I've had Somerset police cars drive up to the shelter and let a person out and drive away. They're not, organizations are not supposed to be discharging people to homelessness. They're supposed to be working on their behalf to find them. So that's just one example of things that I think needs to be taken more seriously, you know? I had the concept of matching state aid with being above the 10%. If you're not above the 10%, maybe a community gets less state aid, and one that is gets more state aid.
Hey,
Be good for Fall River.
you know what? We can always pressure our representatives to introduce a bill and fight for it.
There's ways of doing it, and we are looking at homelessness as a regional approach. I mean, we have the South Coast Alliance for Homelessness. We meet regularly on a monthly basis with Attleboro, Taunton, New Bedford, but they're all in the same boat we're in. Homelessness around the region is the same. They have the encampments, and some of them have bigger problems than Fall River. You'll see the homelessness right out on the main streets.
With that, I yield. I'm sure other people have comments and
Thank you,
questions.
Council. Council
Thank
seat
you.
6, Council Vice President Pro.
Well, some of the questions that I had or some of the comments that I had were already mentioned, so I wouldn't want to mention those again. But I'm looking at these encampments. When you have places, and tell me, Mr. Dion, who is giving tents? I know that the church, the old St. Patrick's Church, which is now Good Shepherd, they were giving people tents to be able to set up, and they were giving them sleeping bags. And they said, then it didn't work out, they stopped doing that. They had bought a bunch, they stopped doing that. But then I think, was Stepping Stone giving tents as well?
There's been multiple organizations that have given tents and sleeping bags out. And the reason why is this, is that homelessness and getting into a shelter is not a one-day affair. It could take you a week to 2 weeks. And the only thing that a homeless person has against the elements is sometimes that tent. So most of the homelessness calls come in, and Nikki, tell me if I'm wrong, Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
No, that's true. That's
And
when I get
they
them and
come
I
in.
call you.
And very limited resources on Fridays, I'll be straight up with you.
But they give them a tent, and they give them a sleeping bag. Where do they expect that person to go to the bathroom? Where? You go to the new Cumberland Farms that opened up, the doors there are locked now because the people in the encampment there were coming in, washing up at the sink and changing their clothes, that they now have locked the doors. McDonald's, and same thing, it was locked, or Burger King was locked near the rail trail, the Honeydew, because they're impacting on the businesses. I thought that community development had bought something that would have a bathroom and a shower or something.
We do.
Did that come through yet?
We purchased a wash trailer and a laundry and dryer trailer.
So you do have those?
We do have those, yes.
And where are those located?
Right now, they're located at the DCM building. They've been used on multiple times. They're going to be used for our Project Homeless Connect Day. You just can't leave them out there and let them use them at any time because they'd be used as homeless shelters. So I can't leave out the trailers. They have to
I
be
know in Portland,
supervised
Oregon, they had, right in the center of town,
And that's the whole goal of homeless.
stainless steel building.
But
It was all stainless steel with a toilet and a shower and a sink, and people would go in, and then the city would come and wash them all down,
Our goal for homelessness is not to leave people in encampments. That's why we made the Tomeo Center. That's why we added an overflow shelter with 30 beds. We increased our beds from 20 beds at the First Step In shelter all the way to 80 now.
But they had reduced them over the summer.
We had
They had
reduced them.
reduced them, I had talked to the mayor.
Correct.
And he called them, and they had to up it again.
Correct.
Because they reduced the beds, but not the number of people that were working there, which made no sense to me.
We've had some staffing issues. I can tell you that right now. Also, that shelter runs on a very bare bones budget. What was very beneficial to us over the last year, 2 years, was we were able to pay hazard pay and we were able to keep those shelter workers. Who wants to be a shelter worker during COVID? Not too many people. A lot of our volunteers left. But our goal is to bring people out of the encampments. That's why we've created this additional street outreach team. We don't want to give a person a tent and say, here, live out there. But sometimes you have to do that at the beginning. to give
Well, you
them
know, I did
services.
meet 3 individuals who were from New Jersey in the encampment, and asked them, wow, you're from New Jersey. What, how did you end up here in Fall River? Oh, because we were told you have the best services here. Because we do so much, sometimes it's not really helping us because other people are in fact coming in. Like the lady that was panhandling with a child and asked, well, where are you from? Oh, Cumberland. So you came from Cumberland to Fall River to Panhandle? Why? Well, people here are very generous. I mean, I think that sometimes we're so good to a fault. There is a young fellow by the name of John Milkey. I've known him for a lot of years. He wrote a grant and received, I think it was $6,000. And on specific days, he's at Cam's Laundromat, where anybody, not just somebody that's homeless, but where people can go wash and dry their clothes for nothing. I mean, this is like, I think he's 16 years old, who wrote this grant, did it all on his own. And there's got to be a way for us to get those things out there, the positive things out there.
We already do it. On a daily basis, the Tomeo Center is allowing people to go in and do their laundry. They're allowing them to go in and take a shower. Human dignity, things that would improve homelessness. So we're already doing that. We're providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Our work crew is working out of that building. There's a lot of things that we're doing that we're doing them. People might not know we're doing them, but we're doing
But
them.
I
You know
think
how
that
many-
that's a problem,
you know-
Mr. Dion. People need to know what, in fact, we are doing.
Well, I
You
don't have
know,
that much money
what
in
are-
my
What are they
budget
doing out there every
laundry
single day?
detergent.
No, but I think that that's, you know, I know that I was in the mayor's office and he was on the phone with Mayor Mitchell in New Bedford on homelessness. They were talking about that and things, what New Bedford is seeing, what we're seeing, that type of thing.
We talk about it every day in the mayor's
Yeah.
office. The other thing is I've personally put 5 or 6 trips on my personal credit card to get people back to New Jersey, to get people back to Florida, to New York. That's the first thing we ask them, where are you from? You want to go back home? You want to go back to where you came from? Some people say yes. I had one, what was it, Ponta Delgada?
Portugal, yeah.
Portugal, wanted to go back to Portugal. It's a little expensive, but, you know.
October's cheaper. just to let you know. But no, I think that you're doing some good work, but I don't think that the people know. I happen to have contact with everybody that's at this table when I get calls, and I was still looking for that 78-year-old man with the 37-year-old son, who's now at least living in somebody's basement, is still waiting for a place to be.
You know I work with you on
All the
several of
time.
them, and it's very difficult.
I know.
Very difficult.
I know, it does. It breaks your heart when you see this, because I think there's a humanistic side of us. And this community is a great community. One of the things I love best about this community is that when there's a problem, people come, they step to the plate, they help out. You know, the Saturday Kitchen, there's more people that attend, and, you know, and some people aren't homeless, you know, they're not, but it's a way to meet other people and get a good meal. The vet's on Wednesday.
And one of the other things I just want to bring out there is that, you know, we're not turning a blind eye either.
No.
I mean, if there's criminal activity going on in those encampments, or if there's issues happening in the neighborhood, the police department is being notified of that. I mean, I think they just raided one of the encampments a couple weeks ago and arrested
Yes.
3, 4, 5 people out of, you know, so
What happened on Brayton Avenue? I know that's not city-owned property. I believe that property was owned by Liberty Utility, but I'm not sure. But all those trees got knocked down in that whole encampment there.
everybody,
Do you know-
my understanding, Beth, you could probably talk to that. I
Beth,
think
do you
they're all
know
gone.
about that?
National Grid contacted me because they're going in to do work on their high-tension wires, and they needed to get people out of there for safety reasons. So when we went in, we did 3 weeks of outreach between Nikki, myself, Steve Burt, and, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Burt.
Right.
And we went in there and we offered them treatment services, resource services, and we were able to get a couple of people into treatment. There were only 2 people out of 10 that refused to leave. They ended up getting arrested for no trespassing after numerous attempts. And then National Grid went in and they just took it all down. It's their property. They increased the entrance on the 79 entrance to allow easier access for public safety, and they took down all the trees. They're gonna repost the no trespassing, and, because they need to go in and work on their high-tension wires, and they don't really want the liability of having a homeless encampment in that property.
Now, they can put no trespassing signs up because it's privately owned.
Correct.
The city, on the other hand, can't put no trespassing on state or city-owned property. Is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that question. I
I'd
do
like,
know
I'd
that-
like, I'd like you to check that.
I do know there's one other National Grid property that's.
Yeah, because one of the
still got
things
people there.
here, you know, was about that, you know, people couldn't be trespassing on property, but I know one of it was owned by the state, and we had no jurisdiction over the state. But what about the city's property that they have?
I mean, we can limit access to any city property for a good public safety reason. I mean, we had a conversation, I think, about the docks down by the battleship, right? I
Mhm.
mean, those are locked for a safety reason. The problem with just putting up a no trespassing sign is now you create an obligation for the police to go ahead and arrest the people that trespass. And that's, I mean, I understand a lot of people say, well, okay, c'est la vie. The
Yeah.
problem is that, one, we have a police force that's already overburdened with honest to goodness, crime that is immediately putting people at risk. And to add that on, I think is a burden that they probably don't need right now. And two, you end up trying to just lock up homelessness as opposed to try to offer treatment and services and other things that might
Well,
actually
that's
end
not
the homelessness.
absolutely true, because according to Ms. Bonds, you go out and you ask for what services, what help. Out of the 10 people there, only 2 were arrested for trespassing because they didn't want to leave. But if they're going to get arrested for trespassing, they're going to know, hey, listen, they're going to hit their rock bottom at some point. If not, and they do spend a couple of days in jail, at least I know they're being fed and they have a bed to sleep in, and maybe there they can get some help too.
Sure, but put up a no
So
trespassing sign and
it's 6
everybody's
of one, half
trespassing.
dozen of the other.
That's the problem. As soon as you put up a sign, everyone is trespassing, and now everyone is breaking the law. And so instead of having the option to say, hey, do you want to go? You now have everyone as a trespasser. And
Well, the way
that's
that
problem.
National Grid did it, they went in first for a couple of weeks telling everybody, and then there was a drop dead date that if you're not out by this time, you're gonna get a no trespassing. So there's options too.
And
Because then it's not fair to people that live in the community when people are defecating and urinating that I can look out my window and see, or then it's a health hazard for everybody else in the community as well. So you gotta look at both sides. I can't
But then
fathom what it's like to be homeless, but boy, they provide as many services as they can for people. But then you don't want it to become a health hazard either for
But
people
you create
around
a
there.
sticky wicket, because what
Wicket.
happens is you're not gonna only catch, in the net, you're not only gonna catch homeless people. There's gonna be someone elderly or someone, a child or some young person who doesn't understand that the no trespassing is gonna result in.
Well, that's why you go
criminality,
out for a
right?
few weeks
Well,
and
reg-
inform people of that.
Regardless of that, though, what I've seen, and obviously everyone wants, the most important thing is we keep these people alive, because no one wants to walk out and see a dead body either if they
And what's
haven't
gonna
been
happen
fed
in the
and stuff.
wintertime?
And what's happened is, when we shuffle them from site to site, now the outreach workers have no clue where they are. So when they overdose, no one's even in there for a week to check on them because we had no clue. When I got a call last week where someone was so dope sick that they couldn't even leave their tent and they needed EMS, and they called my cell phone, and I knew exactly where to call and send EMS. When we continuously just tell them, sorry, this place is off limits, and we shuffle them to another place, they're absolutely still gonna cut down trees and go into someone else's yard. We're just not gonna know where they are to provide services, build that rapport, or try to get them out of there. So I'm 100% with you. I see both sides. You all know I've been homeless myself, and now I get to see all the administration and you guys do to fight homelessness, because it wasn't like this, let's be honest. 5 years ago, no one cared about homelessness. No one really cared about drug addicts either. Right now, more is being done in Fall River than I've ever seen, and we're not going to solve it tomorrow, but we do still have to find a line between treating them humane and also being tough, right? So what is that line? Does anyone in the country have that exact answer? So it's basically been like trial and error. We limited giving tents and sleeping bags one time. We take their name now. The organizations take their name. You're not going to get 1 million tents to scatter in the woods and just leave and move on. So I think the more that we build the trust and the rapport with these people, the more they call us in the middle of the night to say, I'm finally ready, and they're not dying out there. When that was that massive storm, we would drive it around till 6 a.m, like literally all night, pulling people out of the encampments and collapsed tents because there was so much snow. But no one died in Fall River, and I think that's saying something.
Thank you. With that, I yield, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council. Any further questions? Council C1, Council Kadim.
Thank you. Couple of questions, just some statements as well. So I know, we've been talking about this matter and we've talked about it in our subcommittee. And unfortunately, a lot of the topics that came before us today, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, I'm sure people are going to get upset. The city council has no jurisdiction over, right? So again, we're a legislative body, and it's, I know for some folks, they don't truly understand our form of government and what our roles and responsibilities are. So as a city council, we're a legislative body. We cannot direct any of the folks at the table to do anything. If we could, I'd direct you all to figure out the homeless situation and come back to us with an answer. But we can't do that, right? What we can do, though, is have a conversation about funding, and I think that's something that we started in the subcommittee about a couple of months ago, and why we have this resolution that was put forth by Councilor Raposo, was for you folks to come back and tell us what you needed, and coming up with a game plan and asking for resources, because we can appropriate funding. Obviously, it's got to be through, the efforts of the mayor's office and support of the mayor's office, where that funding's going to come from. But if we can identify the programs that you need or the resources that you need, we'd be more than willing to support your needs. So if it's detergent, we need more money for detergent or whatever it is. And I know it's tongue in cheek, but whatever you need in terms of funding for whatever type of resources that you folks are seeing, because again, we're legislative, you're executive day-to-day, running the day-to-day situation for the city. I personally would support that. So part of this conversation, and I think where Councilor Raposo was going, some immediate need is understanding that some of the individuals that are there have mental health issues. And we have already been talking about getting a clinician, having a clinician part of the police department, staffed at the police department, so that we have a clinician responding to some of the calls with our police officers to help assist some of the mental health calls, because the police department in that profession has changed drastically, going from crime enforcement to more social work, right? And they're not necessarily equipped themselves in terms of dealing with some of the mental health calls that they're dealing with. But through funding that we're providing, they're getting some additional training through the chief and the mayor's office. So we want to continue to support that. So if it's talking about a clinician, and I know we talked about the opioid money coming down, and I know there's some mechanics in terms of how that money can be used in the near future, whether it's going to flow through free cash, and whether or not it needs to be appropriated, or if, unless there's an update, I'm not sure if they have.
You set up a stop fund.
So they've come down with that.
Set a stop fund up.
So that was already determined, because I know it was up in the air as to whether it was going to flow through free cash or if it was going to be able to. So the staff fund, we can't just send it to the staff fund. We have to get it through free cash.
No, so what was put forward to the council that was approved was to set up the stop fund, and all monies that come in go right into the stop fund.
Mm-hmm.
So it's automatically happening now.
So but the DOR, I know it was up in the air in terms of
Special
legislation.
revenue they're talking about, it hasn't been approved yet.
Right, so I guess that's where I'm trying to figure out what we're doing with that money, because right now I think the DLS ruling is allowed to flow through free cash, and then we've got to earmark it specifically for
So if we took the approach of putting it into a stabilization fund, and that's what was approved in Fall River. So right now it's not flowing through our free cash, it's going directly into.
And so what do we have for a balance?
I have to get that. It's I think just around $1 million.
Okay. And that's just last year's money?
Yeah.
Is that
Yes,
FY '20?
The first installment was just under $1 million. And
Speaking to the microphone, please.
I'm sorry, I apologize. About $1 million is the first installment, and then I think it's about $400,000 annually is what we're looking at right now.
So, and just, I guess in terms of just staying on this resolution, so we already have a clinician that we're working through with some funding on your side, right? And I say your side, I mean CDA.
Yeah, we wrote the FR Cara grant. It's a 3-year grant, $2 million, I believe. And we've put it out there that we're hiring a clinician. She's supposed to be starting very soon, I think, next week. So we're also cognizant of throwing good money at, not having a plan. The mayor and I have been sitting down over the last couple of weeks and looking at more and more of where the budgets are going to be with community development, what other money we're going to need to keep this, going in the future.
So if we see, so for what I heard from you folks is that you want to wait and see how the clinician works out. If that makes sense, then come back and potentially fund another position.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've ever had a clinician into the police department, so, we don't know how it's going to work out. I think we should give the chief the opportunity to have one without giving him two and not working out. So I think in a very short period of time, we'll know the benefits of it. And then come back to you and say, hey, you know, or go to the mayor and ask him about the opioid money, if we can, you know, get into that.
So have we started having those conversations with regard to the opioid money and what it could be used for, and if we can kind of make it work with some of this homelessness?
So there's actually a
encampments?
consultant that we hired
mentioned that with
who
Karen,
specializes who's done this in other, or is doing this in other places. So their work is nearly complete. I think, I would say 45 to 60 days, we'll have a better sense of where we are.
Okay. So is there anything in the immediate future that we can expect that you would be requesting in terms of additional funding, programs, resources? And I know we keep saying that we need to get it out there. Quite frankly, I don't know how much more you folks can do in terms of trying to get out all this information, because we say it here, there's only so many people that really are entertained by any of our meetings. So I don't know that we have we're the target audience that you want to try to get that information out, but is there anywhere else that we can start to advertise all these resources and anything that's available for folks?
I think it's pretty well known now. I think we've done a pretty good of getting it out there to the homeless community. I mean, I don't know, I'll have a line out the door doing laundry if I tell everybody laundry's free. You know, we'll put the laundromats out of business. So we've done a pretty good job in getting it out there, letting all the nonprofits, all of our partners know. We're having our Project Homeless Connect in another 3-4 weeks, where we bring in the homeless and give them all kinds of services. That'll be advertised to the Hill. So I think we've done a pretty good job so far. I just don't want to over-advertise the services.
I recognize that. Yeah.
You know, I think in the next month, in the planning of the winter months, very soon, we'll have we'll have a better idea of what our needs are. And, you know, I wouldn't want to come here and ask for something that we don't need. You know, I know money is precious in the city budget, so if we could do it with grant funding, if we can figure out, it would be better to use the grant funding. We do have some money that's going to be returned to us from the CARA grant. So, you know, there's a lot of things up in the air right now, but we'll have a better feel for it within the next 4 weeks, I'd say.
And then I guess just shifting gears a little bit, you know, we were talking about affordability, market rate, housing. Had a conversation with somebody, and it was a debate, and I've said this to the group there. There's nothing affordable about the affordable housing that we're building. It's not affordable, just the rents that we're talking about. And so when I went back and forth with this individual saying, I don't know how anybody with a decent job can afford some of the apartments, and you know, they kind of went back and said, well, you're not having to pay insurance, you don't have to pay taxes and going around. And then we kind of went back to economics and demand, supply and demand, right? And the argument being said that there's not enough supply for the demand that we have. And I said, well, I don't disagree with you. But what I'm not seeing is the more supply that we're putting out there, I don't see the rents starting to go down. I see the opposite. I see the rents continuing to go up. So the more housing that we build, and the nicer they are, I think we're pricing out some of the older 3 families, and people are starting to have to, you know, sell those off and things of that nature, because they can't compete with some of the, you know, the luxuries that are being had at some of these other apartments. So the question coming from community development, and I know community development gets tied into planning, are we starting to have a more global conversation about what the housing market looks like in Fall River and how we can kind of impact that? And I know that's more of a global conversation, and I think that really kind of impacts some discussion at the state level with the governor and things of that nature. But are we starting to have those conversations?
Yeah, we've as an administration, we've had those conversations. I know my goal and what I've been tasked with is to create as many affordable housing units as I can with the community development home program. But like anything else, it's got a limited amount of money. Over the last 6 years, I looked at it the other day, over the last 6 years, we've brought on about 350 units of additional housing in the city. Some of that, the majority of that being low income. CDA has to do it, CDA usually does it in small chunks, like, a 4-family, a 3-family, a 6-family. But we also have bigger developments like Curtin Lofts and Fall River Knitting Mills. Those are over 55, over 60 years old housing, so the rents are cheaper. We try to stay with that 10% rule. 10% of the housing in those developments, we'd like to see them affordable. In Alan Macumber's property, 64 Durfee Street, Community Development was a partner in that. We took 11 units as affordable. There's 55 units in the building, so we even went above the 10%. We went to the 20%. Most of the majority, I would say 90% of the units that I have listed as an affordable on our inventory are still rents anywhere from $750 to $1,000 for 2-bedroom units. We haven't seen a dramatic rise in rents because we're kind of rent controlled. So we're still pumping out affordable housing. We're just
my other concern is
pump it out quick enough.
What we're developing, right? And I don't know this for a fact, but having again some conversations with folks that the new developments that we're seeing, a lot of the tenants are coming from outside of Fall River. So it's not really Fall River residents that are going into these tenements, right? So we're attracting folks from other places, bringing more folks in. So I'm a little concerned that, the theory, and I know it's supply and demand, it's very basic, it's something that we've all dealt with, it's a simple theory, but I don't see it. And I think it's a statewide issue, but as you build new, and beautiful, and I'm all for it, developments like this, you're just attracting folks from outside of the city coming in, and we're losing the opportunity to fill, these apartments from people that need it within Fall River. And so I'm curious if we've even run the numbers to see, out of all the developments that we've seen, there's tax credits going into this, there's, incentives that are being provided by the city. How many of these apartments are being given to city residents? And not that we can control that, but I think we need to start talking about when we have, all these conversations with the developers coming before us.
You also have to understand that a lot of the apartment complexes that are being rehabbed and being built are being done with private money.
No, I recognize that.
Which allows them to rent and, to do whatever they.
But I guess what I'm saying is that it's all being fronted by taxpayer money, right? So.
No, some of it's not. Some of it is
private. But
private.
a good majority of it, right? So we can start having these conversations that you're getting tax incentives to go into these mills, right? So that's all tax credits that are coming into it. So that you've got people coming in getting finance, right? They're making the only way it works is if there's financing, right? We just heard Mr. Macumber coming before us that he's got to go through, he's got to navigate to be able to get some credits and things of that nature to make that project work. And we hear that across the board, so that there is tax incentives to build these developments. And we have built zoning, we have developed overlays to incentivize the developments of these residential developments, right? So there's a financial portion that the city has contributed to, right, to incentivize these developments. So the question now is how is it benefiting the residents of Fall River, right? And it benefits Fall River, and I get it that we're bringing more people into the city. I recognize that it's creating additional revenue, it's supporting small businesses, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, when we're starting to talk about the homeless aspect, that's what I'm trying to figure out is when we see these developments, how many of those apartments are really being utilized by city residents?
I can tell you in the ones that I've been involved in, Curtin Lofts and Fall River Knitting Mills, I want to say that I would say 40 to 50% are people that have lived in Fall River that are currently coming out of either an apartment or an elderly selling their home and getting out and moving into a more protected, they feel more protected. They like the community. They like the essence of living in a mill. Yeah. I've heard it quite often. The other ones, the other developments, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I know a lot of those, like the Duro ones. Seth, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe those are being done with private money. They haven't even come to my office to ask for any subsidizing.
If I may, So, I mean, this is certainly an important, but it is a broader conversation that I think we were prepared for tonight. And it might benefit from some statistics and some better preparation. Would you be inclined to let us come back to the council with?
Yeah, that's fine. I was just throwing it out there because I think that's part of the global conversation that needs to be had as well, especially from,
Certainly.
you know, if we're going to bring this to the table, we're a legislative body, right? So when we come back and start approving TIFs and, you know, HDIP zones and things of that nature, I think we need to know what the true impact is. And if we can kind of massage some of the stuff that we're doing, maybe to incentivize Fall River residents of trying to get at least like a veteran's preference or a Fall River resident's preference, you know, I like to see that happen. So, and then I look forward to seeing what other resources you folks may need, because I want to support that. I guess just circling back to one of the council's questions about whether or not we can have folks removed. I know the ACLU challenged a lot of the communities who were having law enforcement removing folks from being able to sleep out in public in open space, which also includes city space. The AG ruled in 2022 that we are not allowed to remove these folks unless we can guarantee that they have housing. And that comes back from a federal case. I think it was the Ninth Circuit Court that made that decision. So, you know, we've got court decisions that are you know, really kind of handcuffing us in terms of what we can and cannot do. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I knew the council had a question. So it's not that we don't want to have them removed. It's a matter of if we do have them removed, we have to be able to place them somewhere else. So.
And we're cognizant of that. In our meetings, we've had Alan Rumsey,
Yep.
the City Corporation Council, give us the direction that we need to make sure that we don't do anything.
And while I'm on my soapbox, I'll go to Councilor in C2 and just talk about, she's spot on, and with the frustration that we've got migrant families who are coming in, claiming asylum, and the state is not prepared to deal with this issue and provide the resources. And we are a right to shelter community, one of the only communities, one of the states in the country that do that. So anybody who is looking for asylum, we have to shelter them. And you just need to look at Taunton, 600 people at the hotel. There's a demand on services that are being provided by the municipality. And what the state is saying is that they want resources for those individuals, and for us to start ignoring the fact that we cannot provide resources for our homeless, for our seniors, for our veterans. It's a little frustrating when we have that type of situation coming, and I know Fall River is going to be a community that's going to be dealing with some of this, if we have not already been dealing with it. But the fact of the matter is that we're having a difficult time providing the resources for our residents currently. And the fact that we have a state of an emergency with housing and migrant families coming in, and there's no plan and no resources in the foreseeable future is a major concern. And I will say that once we even get some of these families, it's just going to add to the encampments because there's limited space for these folks to go to. They are being dropped off in communities. I'm sure Fall River is one of them, from different locations, whether it be Chicopee, Springfield, and you know, they just get on a bus. The state has a contract with a transportation company, and they just drop them off at hotels, motels, and then it's on the municipality to try to figure out what's going on and how to deal with these folks. So it's just compounding to the problem that we're already faced with. So this is just the beginning. I've been to Portland. I've seen how Portland is. We're nowhere near Portland, but I also don't want to get to a situation where we can't walk on streets because there are tents on the streets. So I think it's a challenge that we're all going to have to deal with. And if we had the answer, we would definitely be fixing it now. I just don't know that there is a reasonable answer to the situations that we're dealing with. So I just want to let you know and say again that I'd support anything that you need for resources and funding. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Councilor C4, Councilor Liberty.
Thank you. I just have two questions. You mentioned the Tomeo Center. Can you just tell us what that is?
The Tomeo Center is a day shelter that operates out of Spindle City Church Building on Bay Street.
Okay.
The center provides services, job training services, basic life services, like I said, laundry, showers, meals, to any homeless individual in the city that wants to get into a day shelter. They have, access to computer systems. It's a great run organization down there. It's a it's a separate part of our overflow shelter. It's something basically that we really just wanted to try. I mean, we're working on trying to make that self-sufficient. And we've had a great partnership with Spindle City Church. I mean, they've really stepped up. They've run our overflow shelter for many, many years. I don't know if you remember, our overflow shelter used to have to move every 2 weeks.
I remember.
And we used to have 4 different places.
Yes.
And now we got one place and we're able to serve meals. And we also have used it for emergencies. When the Academy building had the power problem, they opened up the doors, put the cots out, and were able to service people. So it's a different concept. Instead of a night shelter, it's kind of like a day shelter. It's kind of in its infancy. I believe they opened in April. Pastor Tom's here tonight. Him and his wife Lisa run it. Good people, really good people.
All right, and my other question is there anything that you can do for the encampment on Bay Street? Are there any extra efforts that you can, I know you can't move them. I know, they have rights to be there, but we've been hearing from the neighbors about the condition there.
I mean, I think what we can do is we can provide more street outreach to them. We could get our street outreach into that encampment. Is that going to make other encampments suffer? There are other encampments in the city, but I think an inventory of the people that are there, start looking at everybody's, and I know that Nikki does this already, but start looking at everybody's needs. Everybody is different. Every homeless person has different needs.
Right.
The issue that we normally have, the big issue we have is if you get them into detox, or if you get them into a shelter, do they come back? It's a community. It's really, I've read a lot about it. Homeless people don't like to live alone. They don't want to be in their apartment all by themselves. It's a community, camaraderie, it's their friends.
Yeah.
So, we place a lot of people in detox, but detox is only, what, a week, Nikki? A week,
Yeah,
10
6
days?
days,
And
yeah.
then they come out.
And they go back.
And if
Like
there's
82%
no unit available, which we try to work with them, they go right back out. I mean, we've had a lot of success stories, and then you have some that are not. So I think maybe more of a targeted street outreach to that one encampment.
Well,
Okay?
actually, we have been, actually, Mike. So
Yes.
I spoke to Mrs. Buchanan the day that she originally called the mayor's office, and that's exactly what we have been doing since, is stepping up to that encampment. A lot of them are going over to the Tomeo Center, so we're providing them services while they're there and trying to see if there's anything else that can be done for them that hasn't been done other than housing. That's the one thing we can't just offer on a whim, but we did increase. We have been going multiple times a week between the FAST team, Steph's team, and EMS. And it's also, you don't want to harass them either. So we're going as much as we feel comfortable with, that they're comfortable with us. Otherwise, we meet them at the Tomeo Center when they come there. But I know it's been a citywide concern, this particular encampment, and we plan to continue over the next few weeks to really hit that encampment.
And you'll see that encampment go down just because the cold weather's coming.
Right. Where are they going, though?
They'll go into the Tomeo Center, or the
During the
overflow
day.
shelter that'll have 30 beds. The beds at Stepping Stone will increase from, right now they're at 20, I believe. I think they might have gone up to 30. Those will go up to 50. So you'll have 80 shelter beds available. So you'll see that encampment probably just transition really to the overflow shelter, where you won't have them living in the encampment. And the goal is always in the winter to transition everybody from the overflow shelter to the main shelter on Durfee Street. And that's really the goal, is to get people out of the shelter on Durfee Street into some type of permanent supportive housing or housing, so that the overflow clients are not just thrown back out on the street and are gone to the Durfee Street for a step in. So there's
a step to it.
There's a
yeah.
plan, there's a step, we do it every year, but, like anything, it's just increases.
Has there been a count done this year?
Yeah, that's in your information that you have. I gave you numbers for the point in time count for the last 3 years, 21, 22, and 23. As you can see, the number of sheltered individuals has gone up from like 45 to 80, I believe, and that's just because of the increase in beds that we've brought on with the overflow shelter. But you'll have seen homelessness kind of has really stayed at level. Also, you'll see on those graphs, our unsheltered individuals actually had gone down from 2022 to 23, not by a big number, by a small number.
Yeah.
And those counts are, I know the last 2-year counts are very, very accurate. The group, a real good group went out there and really did some counting. They made sure they scoured everywhere.
Okay. All right, with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I just have a question. Years ago, I met someone who was in that situation, and they said that they were court mandated to come to Star for 30 days. And then once they left Star, they would just walk in the streets of Fall River, doing a lot of what they did from where they came from. And the individual told me that the mother was a doctor and the father was a lawyer. But when the drugs kicked in, they just couldn't stop robbing from their family and everyone else. They ended up in court. Are people still being court mandated to come to Fall River Star Center, or is that still going on?
There is a thing called the Section 35, and yes, but they're not given as freely as they were probably in previous years, but your family can go and advocate to you if you're a danger to yourself and at risk for life threat, then they can go and they can have you committed for 30 days.
To the city of Fall River, and they came from
So the
other.
district court go to the clerk's office and they have.
Yeah, there was only
advocates
3
that will help you
locations.
through the process.
We were one of 3 cities in the Commonwealth that was going on, and they were coming from everywhere. And I think that's one of the problems as well, because these poor people have an addiction problem, and then that addiction problem, they're being court ordered here, and then when they get their treatment for 30 days, they just open the door and they don't go back to the community. They stay here.
Well, the places where they serve their Section 35 are not just locally. As a matter of fact, the places where they serve their Section 35 are not necessarily the best places, and that's why a lot of families are very hesitant to try to do the Section 35, because it's, in order for the addiction problem to kind of manifest itself in a positive manner, it has to come from within. Correct. And sometimes just the forced nature of it makes them come out angry and maybe not always successful, but a lot of the places where they do their Section 35, like actual 30 days, is not in our local area.
All right. And I just want to say, for the record, Beth, Nikki, Mr. Dion, and Chief Oliver, I commend you for what you do. I really do. I mean, you guys do a tremendous job, and I like to see the fact that you keep working to get people out of those locations, and you really ought to be commended. And most people don't know what you do for this community, but I appreciate it very much because I've seen it, and it's an incredible work that you do. But I do agree that we need to do something to help people like Mrs. Buchanan and others that are dealing with this on a regular basis. They shouldn't be witnessing this happening right in front of their house and stuff, and we need to come up with some type of a plan to address those people and those individuals that are on the good side of what a resident should be doing, and the residents and everyone else, and they're trying to make their stuff work, but yet they got to deal with this every single day. And I understand it's a nationwide problem. I get it. I've seen it in San Francisco. I see it in McKeer, Mass, and McKeer Ave in Boston, and I see what's going on there, but it's something that we need to help and stop people who in this community from having to deal with that without the city getting involved and bring them some comfort. So if we can put up some kind of a plan or something, and I'm glad to see that we're focusing more on Bay Street and helping that out, but I think we need to ramp it up just a little bit more. And if you, like Councilor Kadim said, if you need more resources from us, please tell us. We'll get more people in that situation. I'm sure the mayor will as well. And I commend him for what he's done with the homeless population in this city as well. We do have a lot of services. We try to put as many people as possible, but we need to fix this whatever way we can. Councilor in seat 7, Councilor Pozo, you did have your hand up. Are you all set? Or you?
No, so I think in this conversation, we've all understood that first you need some more time to give us some data. You need some time, about 45 to 60 days for that consultant to come back about the opioid money. So there's plenty of opportunity here. The one thing I will say, and as we begin to look forward to budget season, soon, very soon, I'll sit here and advocate for funding at the city level to help support this. Mr. Dion, I appreciate everything you do and the grants that you get with your team. But I think the city also needs to have a foot in the game here. And there are things in the budget that we probably could have gotten rid of, and there are other things that we could support. And I think this is one of those things where now the city, and the city budget could support this. That's my only advocation for further funding, Mr. Aiken, if you
Well, no,
so
it sounds like you're suggesting that we don't have a
No,
foot
no,
in the
no,
game.
no,
That's-
I'm not suggesting
That's just
anything.
wildly
Nope,
incorrect.
Nope.
But that's
I'm not-
okay.
I'm actually not
That's
suggesting
fine.
anything. I'm actually just suggesting that we further fund what we're doing. Because what I look in front of me is that, and Mr. Dion said it, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of grant funding that's involved with this, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's all federal grant money.
Correct.
And we don't get enough from the feds to also.
Correct. I'm not implicating anything, Mr. Aiken. I'm saying we further help it. That's all.
Sounds good.
Not getting it from the governor either.
That I yield.
You, Council seat 6, Council Vice President Pereira.
I'd like to take more money out of the budget and put in this, but where do we take it from? Because the budget tight. And a lot of these agencies that are on here, the 15 that are listed here, are all agencies that get money, are eligible for other grants and that type of thing. It breaks my heart to see this many people homeless living in encampments. Because all the money we're spending on this, we could be spending for other things as well in the city if this problem didn't exist. But unfortunately, it exists. What I wanted to clarify was, I think when the council president asked the question about people coming to Fall River, years ago, if you lived anywhere in the state, you lived in Lexington, and you got in trouble for breaking into some place and it was drug involved, whatever, the court could order you to go in for treatment. You'd come down here, you'd go to Stepping Stone or Star, you'd come here for 3 days or 5 days, like really, you're gonna get cured in 3 days. I don't know who thought of that plan, but not gonna happen. You're laughing, Nikki, because you know, right? Well, but then if that person, after those 3 days, that person left, they wouldn't go back to their hometown, they would stay here in Fall River. And years ago, that didn't happen. If you came here, once your treatment was done, there was money in the budget, there was money, and they would bring you back to your hometown. Or if you stayed for the 3 days that was mandatory, but then you wanted to stay for an additional 2 weeks, and then you decided you were gonna bolt, so you weren't gonna be involved in the program anymore, they would send you back. Now they don't. Section 35 is when somebody goes into court and says, this individual, for whatever reason, is at risk of hurting themselves or others, and they need to be sectioned. Then it's a psychiatric section where they have to go in. I just wanted to kind of clarify that, because not all of them are. And you're right.
I might not
so
have expressed
hard,
myself well.
So hard to get Section 35 today.
And if you do get it.
If you can get it.
A lot of the family members are not happy with where that 30 days is.
It's true. They're
More
not,
than- and, you
not
know.
enough done with mental health, I agree.
Thank you for your support, everybody.
Mr. President, with that, I would just say that item number 4 on our Finance Committee was a resolution that I had filed with strategies to decrease the number of homeless, et cetera. I think that maybe we can avoid that one because we picked it up in item number 3.
I agree, Council.
So if you agree,
Council seat 4.
with that, I yield.
Thank you. Council seat 7, Council President.
Yeah, so since, like I said earlier, that we're gonna have some timeline to get some more information, I would actually make a motion to table this, so we can revisit it in about 2 months' time.
That's right. Council, motion to table has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is tabled. As Council Pereira noticed, item number 4, discussion with administration regarding strategies to decrease the number of homeless encampments within the city.
I think it's been
discussed.
adequately addressed.
I
Give it
agree.
leave to withdraw.
Second.
Doesn't need to be there.
No.
Motion to withdraw has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is withdrawn. Entertain a motion to adjourn finance?
Motion to adjourn finance.
Motion to adjourn finance is made and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Finance is now adjourned. Council will take a 2-minute recess before we begin the regular meeting. City Council, please come to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Councilors Kadim?
Here.
Dion?
Here.
Kilby?
Here.
La Liberty?
Here.
Pelletier? Pereira?
Here.
Reposo?
Here.
Washington? President Kamara?
Here. Will everyone in the council chair please rise for a moment of silent prayer? Please remain standing for a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting to any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Before we begin, I just want to say to Council Pelletier, he's doing fine. He's just a little tired and couldn't make tonight's meeting. Council Washington had called me earlier. She was on her way here, and then she had a family emergency that she had to take care of, so she's not able with us here as well. Hopefully everybody will be okay, but she had a little family emergency. Madam Clerk?
The first item before you is the mayor's request for confirmation of the appointment of Ashley DaCunha to the Historical Commission.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
Confirm.
confirm would be appropriate. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is confirmed.
We have the mayor's request for the confirmation of the reappointment of Elizabeth DeBlock to the Historical Commission.
Motion so made.
Motion to confirm has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is confirmed.
Have the mayor's request for the confirmation of the reappointment of Richard Mancini to the Historical Commission.
Motion to confirm.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to confirm is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Have the mayor's request for the confirmation of the appointment of Vanya Marie Naversa Faveras to the Cultural Council.
Motion to confirm.
Motion to confirm has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have the mayor's request for the confirmation of the reappointment of Christopher Anteo to the Cultural Council.
Motion
so
to
made.
confirm.
Motion to confirm is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5 is a communication from the mayor in an order to accept the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism Destination Development Capital Grant Program in the amount of $50,000 to fund the purchase of a trolley bus.
Motion so
accept the
made.
grant.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 6 is the mayor's communication and resolution to execute the CDA Section 108 loan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in the amount of $2.5 million for replacement of fire apparatus and equipment.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 7 is a communication from the mayor and a loan order regarding the school department's proposal to the MSBA for the Robert L. Maderas Resiliency Preparatory Academy renovation project. We do have an emergency preamble that will need to be voted on prior to hearing,
Yep.
voting on the item.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
emergency
adopt with the emergency preamble.
preamble. Motion to adopt emergency preamble has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
We do need roll call.
On the, on the,
We need a
on the
roll call.
motion. You have
There's
the
a
other,
second.
Counselor? Roll call on the emergency preamble.
On the preamble, Councilors Kadim,
Yes.
Dion,
Yes.
Kilby,
Yes.
Liberty,
Yes.
Pelletier, Pereira,
Yes.
Reposo.
Yes.
Washington, and President Kamara.
Yes. Is there a motion to authorize me to publish referred to Committee on Finance?
Motion so made.
Second.
Motion has been made and
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
No, just
On the motion, Council C1, Council Kadim?
Just a question in terms of, I was looking at the packet, so the timing of the situation, so I know the superintendent has had it for a while. I know MSBA has looked at it. Have we seen this before any application was submitted to the MSBA?
No, this was submitted to our office on the 7th, at the end of the day.
So I guess the question is it's almost like a rubber stamp that they've already got the approval, now they're coming back before us. So from my standpoint, I think from, obviously a legislative body, we should be involved somewhere prior to, an MSBA approval, just so that we know what's going on. I guess I'm just trying to figure out where we are in the process
You
of what
can, we can refer it to the Committee on Finance. That's
Okay.
where it's going, it's going to Finance.
Yeah, if we can, I'd
Yeah, I mean, that's,
prefer
the
to.
motion is to authorize, republish, and refer to Committee on Finance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
So we, it's
apologize.
not, we're not gonna rubber stamp it and
Yeah.
approve it tonight, Council, it's gonna
I'm-
be approved to
I'm
Committee on
good.
Finance.
I yield, thank you.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to authorize to be published and refer to Committee on Finance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 8 is a communication from the mayor and a proposed ordinance regarding restrictions on panhandling.
Motion to refer to ordinance?
Motion for the Committee on Ordinance and Legislation has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On the motion, Council C2, do you have your hand up or not?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention was, there was panhandling was brought to court, and it was ruled that it's a First Amendment right for people to panhandle. So I hope somehow, I don't know what part of the discussion, I don't even know if we have the right to do this, and I just want to point that out. I mean, it was clear. So I just want to bring that point up, because obviously I don't want to put the city in a position where we're violating something that the Supreme Court said was legal, and then we're going to say, no, you can't do it. Obviously, we're going to need more information, and I'm sure when it goes to the committee, hopefully, we can clarify that, but that potentially could be a problem with this. With that, I yield.
That's why we put in committee. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor in seat 6, Councilor Veterans Pro.
I think that's a valid question. You can't stop them from panhandling, but you can put restrictions on it. And this ordinance was done by looking at a lot of ordinances in other places. You know, you talked earlier, my colleague in seat number 2 talked earlier about people that are coming in and getting housing in front of our people, and I agree with her, that's unfair. But the same thing with this. If you are collecting on a corner because you have a dance studio and your team is going away for competition, or you're a baseball league, or the firefighters collecting on Labor Day, they all pay a permit to stand on the corner. But panhandling, they don't pay a permit. That doesn't make sense. There seems to be an injustice. And the ACLU, they're going to fight for everything. That's their job. That's what they want to do, fight for everybody's freedom. That's fine. But I think that some of these, and Attorney Rumsey has looked at them, and I think that there will be discussion, but I think that you can put parameters around them. One of them is like, if you're at a red light, you're stopped, you're confined to your car. So if somebody's banging on your window, you can't leave that. So they can't entrap you that way either. So I think it's good for discussion. Because I'm quite frankly tired of seeing all that we see with ruining our entranceways to the city. Is it that you can do it so many times a year? I don't know.
Oh, I agree.
So let's see.
Do you, Councilor?
With that, I yield.
Thank you. Councilor C4, Councilor Liberty?
I yield, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, the other day I gave to a cheerleading outfit that was panhandling, not panhandling, they were asking for donations, and they were from Warwick, Rhode Island. I said, where are you guys from? What school is this? And they go, we're from Warwick, Rhode Island. Wow. They said,
We're generous in
people
Fall River.
forever like to give a lot of money, so. Councilor C1, Councilor Kadim?
Yes, so I think we're missing the boat. We can allow handling. I think we should have an ordinance that prohibits the use of giving money while operating a motor vehicle. I think that's unsafe. So I think if you're in a vehicle and you're not allowed to
Be on a cell phone.
Issue, right? You can't be on a cell phone, so you shouldn't be able to hand out money while operating a motor vehicle. I think if we did that, then I think that settled panhandling because they wouldn't be getting any money. So
Yeah, and you shouldn't be able to do it if you have a cell phone in one hand and the money in the other hand.
That's what I say. So that's just my. And we can have that conversation during ordinance, but that's just my take on the whole situation.
That's a great argument.
I
You,
yield.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor C3, Councilor Kilby?
Yes, looking forward to having the discussion, but there is limits on the First Amendment, as we know, and it's my understanding that this proposed ordinance is linked to public safety. So we're not denying panhandling, but we're putting some permissible, I mean, everything can be argued, but we're attempting to put in some permissible restrictions under the law and link it with some public safety issues, so. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I will say this, as someone that travels to a lot of different cities in the Commonwealth, and I do, I don't see it out there as much as I see it in Fall River. It's amazing. I don't see it in other cities as much as I see it in places like Fall River, New Bedford, and Brockton as much. It's incredible. Council seat 2, Council Dion.
Yeah, just one more comment. Actually, what's more incredible is some of these panhandlers panhandle in Fall River and other locations, and they've been asked, what are you doing? And the answer is, well, on certain days of the week, there's more money to be made in Fall River, and on the alternate days, there's more money to be made here. So, it's just incredible. But I support Counselor in seat 1's proposal. I think that's a great idea. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Have the Traffic Commission making recommendations to amend the ordinances.
Motion to refer to traffic.
Second.
Further Committee on Ordinance and Legislation has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on August 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance, accompanied by an emergency preamble, be passed through first reading, second reading, passed to be enrolled, and passed to be ordained with Counselor Dion absent and not voting. This is a handicapped parking ordinance.
Motion for an emergency preamble?
Motion so made.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call.
On adoption of the emergency preamble, Councilors Kadim?
Yes.
Dion?
Yes.
Kilby?
Yes.
La Liberty?
Yes.
Pelletier? Pereira?
Yes.
Reposo?
Yes.
Washington? President Kamara.
Yes. Motion, entertain a motion to pass through all
Motion
readings.
to pass through all readings. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on August 22nd voted unanimously to recommend the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilor Dion absent and not voting. This is miscellaneous traffic.
Motion so made.
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on August 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilor Dion absent and not voting. This regards amendments for registered and certified mail notice requirements.
Motion to pass through first reading. Second.
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on August 22nd voted to recommend that the accompanying proposed ordinance be passed through first reading with Councilor Reposo opposed and Councilor Dion absent and not voting. This is the thin film plastic bags.
To adopt.
Second.
Motion to pass through first reading has been made and seconded. On the motion, Council seat 7, Council Poto.
I'm just gonna say out loud, I am gonna oppose this. In doing some research in comparison to what's working at the state level and some of the bills and what I'm seeing here, there seems to be some discrepancies of consistency. So I said this in the subcommittee, I wanted to do more research to look more into it, but at this time, I'm gonna oppose it. I yield.
Thank you, Council.
You want just a motion to
Council
table?
seat 2, Council Dion.
Yeah, the only comment I'll make is the irony of this is, yes, is it probably a good idea to get rid of plastic bags? Perhaps. But when you switch to paper, everything you're putting in your paper bag is packaged in plastic. So how effective are we being by removing a plastic bag when everything else in your bag is wrapped in plastics, a lot of which is not recyclable? It almost seems like a moot point. Well, with that, I yield.
I guess it's a starting point.
First step.
I have.
Council seat 6, Council Vice President Pereira.
After the ordinance committee meeting, I got a number of calls from people opposed to it. They said, the plastic bags that we get, now Stop and Shop has paper bags, and forget it, you can't lift them, they don't have handles, they're thin quality. And they were saying the older bags that they would use, the plastic, that they use that for trash, or they use that, they're not just blowing in the wind. What astounds me is, and I said it before, was all of the exemptions that, if you bought meat at a deli market and they wrapped it in plastic, if you put a newspaper in a plastic bag, that was acceptable. Dry cleaning was, either you're gonna get rid of it or you're not gonna get rid of it. So, I don't know. I think, well, it is a start somewhere, but I don't know how it's gonna be enforced. Who's gonna call all the supermarkets in the city and tell them all we can't use it? How's this gonna be enforced? No, so you do an ordinance, but how are we gonna enforce it? So what's the sense of doing it if you can't enforce it? Doesn't make sense.
Like the panhandle.
Did you send them a letter? I don't know.
You yield,
I'm on the
Counselor?
fence with this, I yield.
Thank you. It's not an easy one. Counsel C one, Counsel Dean.
Thank you. So just in terms of the enforcement, so the ordinance was actually tabled for quite some time in an ordinance committee for that specific purpose, to identify who was going to do the enforcement.
Yeah.
We brought it back up in ordinance committee. We had that conversation. There was a discussion about having the health department, which is usually the department that would enforce this type of ordinance or bylaw in another community. And then Corporation Council said we can leave it vague, and so that it's the city enforcing it, and so that the administration can make a determination what the appropriate department is, whether it's the health department or minimum housing, building and department, whoever. So that's why we left it without having a specific department for the enforcement piece. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. Counsel C four, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. There's also a 180 days from the time that this passes that it takes effect. So there's time for everybody to be notified, and some stores, like Stop and Shop, they're already doing it on their own. That I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. I know this has come up in the past, and the argument is they want people to use recyclable bags. Bring them with you, use them over and over. I mean, I think the genius people here is BJ's. You buy something at BJ's, and they give you the box back to put it in, so you can take home, so you can get rid of their trash. At the same time, you're taking their product out. No plastic bags. They're geniuses. They're not putting their cardboard in any recyclable. They just give it back to the customer. Hey, you get rid of this. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And seat opposed, seat 7 opposed. Motion carries.
Committee on Ordinances and Legislation at a meeting held on August 22nd voted unanimously to recommend that the accompanying order be adopted with Counselor Dion absent and not voting. This order is to accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5N.
Motion adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second?
Second.
On the motion, Counsel C2, Counsel Dion.
Yeah, I just want to clarify a couple of points. We did receive a letter. It's in the end, at the end of our packet, but I think some people are under some misconceptions for this. One being there is no cash payout. It's a tax plan that reduces a veteran's real estate tax. If a veteran is disabled, their spouse can do the volunteer work, and they still get the credit. It's 125 hours in a year. They don't have to do it in a week or in 2 weeks. They can do it over the course of the year. For disabled veterans, it's a $1,900 abatement on their taxes, because they also qualify for a $400 abatement with the city, being a disabled veteran already, and they can get both. So, and I know people say, oh, but it's taxed, it's taxed. Yes, perhaps it's taxed, and it shouldn't be, but the tax is $420, so it's $1,080 off their taxes, no matter what, which is a net gain in a month of $90 a month. That can be the difference between a veteran being able to afford some more food or afford their medication. If they're getting the $400 plus the $1,500 after taxes, it's a net gain of $123 a month for that veteran. And I think people were under a misconception. Some people thought they were getting $1,500 in cash that they could just spend whatever way they want. No, it's a way to help veterans stay in their homes, to be able to meet their obligation with their real estate taxes. But somebody has to volunteer to be able to qualify. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Counsel. Motion has, on that motion, Counsel seat 6, Counsel Vice President Pereira.
Yeah, the only concern I have about that is in talking to the VSO. If you get this benefit, and if you were collecting Chapter 115, you may not be able to get 115 because this is going to put you higher than the threshold. I think the thresholds on Chapter 115 should be higher, just like I think on senior citizens over 70, it should be higher than it is. But that's the only problem with this, is that it could then knock them off of being eligible for something else, like a food stamp, like Chapter 115 or medication. I'd want to know how many people would this benefit, because there are a lot of veterans in the city And I think that she was down here and talked about this, and that was one of the things that she had said after, so just to keep that in mind. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Council C1, Council Kadim.
Thank you. Just as I had reminded the ordinance committee, so all we're doing is adopting the general law, chapter 59, section 5N. So that just gives the authority for the administration, if they so choose, to be able to implement this write-off, this volunteer write-off. So it's not going to be mandated or anything like that. It's just another tool in the tool belt to be able to support the veterans.
Right.
So that's all it really is we're essentially accepting that chapter and section of Massachusetts general law. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Council C2.
Yeah, and I was also gonna say, we have roughly 5,000 veterans. Obviously, 5,000 veterans aren't gonna qualify and aren't gonna be able to take advantage of it. This is something, if people choose to do it, it could be there, as he said, a tool for them. Not all people are gonna qualify, but not all people qualify for all programs. And we have come up with other programs to assist veterans. So it's just one more thing that hopefully we can help some people. We can't help everybody all the time. I wish we could. But I don't know how you could raise that limit, and if we could, that would be great, and it would open it. But there's also people that fall through the cracks. There's the people that don't quite earn enough, there's the ones who earn too much, and maybe this hits the ones in the middle that can't gain on either end. So, with that, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 15 is a miscellaneous traffic ordinance for passage through second reading and enrollment.
Motion so made.
Second.
Motion to pass the second reading and enrollment has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 16 is also a proposed ordinance for passage through second reading and enrollment. This one relates to the Community Medicine Scheduling Coordinator.
Motion so made.
Second.
Motion to pass the second reading and enrollment has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 17 is a proposed ordinance for passage through second reading and enrollment. This one is renaming the Standing City Council Committee to include Veterans Affairs.
Motion so made.
Motion to pass the second reading and enrollment has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas the Committee on Finance would like periodic updates regarding the Route 79 Duval Street corridor improvements, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Finance reconvene with a representative from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, City Administrator, City Engineer, for an update on the progress of the Route 79 Duval Street corridor improvements project.
Motion to
refer to
adopt.
finance.
Motion for the Committee on Finance and made, motion to adopt is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas Fall River has numerous tourist attractions such as Battleship Cove, the Lizzie Borden House, the Narrow Center for the Arts, and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall, and whereas many organizations within the city such as Viva Fall River Arts and Culture Coalition, and Creative Arts Network are working tirelessly to develop regional engagement with local communities and businesses, and whereas the ongoing development of the Route 79 Duval Street project will provide more access to areas that would attract tourism and revenue, now therefore be resolved that the Committee on Economic Development and Tourism convene with the Administration, Director of Traffic, and representatives from community organizations to develop a strategy for improved signage throughout the city to assist visitors in locating these events and attractions.
Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Did you want to speak on it, Councilor? It's your
No,
resolution.
I mean, it's pretty simple that
It is very simple.
there's no signs anywhere in the city. You don't know where the heck anything is. And while they're doing 79, let's see if we can get that going. Spent $1 million in tourism from ARPA money, so I want to see some of that $1 million going for signs so people know where things are.
Yeah, not only that, though, when they do the signs, I think we should take a look at them, because some of the signs that they make, you can barely read them if you're driving
Of
by.
course.
So that needs to be looked at as well. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Whereas Davis Park on Meridian Street was recently discussed as an open recreational space for children and families, and whereas neighborhood growth and development are vital for the young residents in this area, and whereas the City Council received a detailed report regarding the feasibility to rehabilitate the park, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Health and Environmental Affairs convene with interested parties to discuss the future of Davis Park and funding options for recommended development.
Motion to adopt resolution?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 21 is a citation for the Lewis Latimer Fellowship Program.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the citation has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion, Council Six.
That,
Council Vice
the
President.
Lewis Latimer was a gentleman who was very instrumental in working with Thomas Edison, because his light bulb only lasted for a little while, and his carbon filament that he invented made it last a lot longer. And he was also instrumental with the patent for the telephone with Alexander Graham Bell. And Lewis Latimer married a woman from Fall River, and he is buried at Oak Grove Cemetery. So his foundation is erecting a stone on his grave because there was no stone. And that's going to be on September 23rd at 1 o'clock, if anybody wants to go. It's pretty interesting. There you go, another thing of tourism. We've got so many famous people buried at Oak Grove Cemetery that, you know, we could have a tour right through there.
All right. Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 22 is an order granting permission to Derek Souza of 50 Hayfield Lane for the removal of curbing.
Motion so made.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 23 is an order granting permission to Seafox Holdings for removal of curbing at 1375 Airport Road.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Have the police chief's report.
Motion to refer to Corporation Council? Was that not, that's not claims.
Motion to accept, place on file.
What was that?
24.
Oh.
Motion to adopt the
Motion to
report?
adopt has been made and seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 25 is an order for the renewal of auto body shop licenses. The first is Richard Duclos at 44 6th Street, and the second is Paulo Carvalho at 410 2nd Street.
Motion so made.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 26 is an application and an order to transfer the auto body shop license from Carlos Souza to Paulo Cavallo at 400 2nd Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion.
Motion
Second.
to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 26B is an order granting permission to Corey Enterprises to transfer the auto body shop license to David Del Rosario at 751 Eastern Avenue.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made
Second.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
27 are applications for the renewal of auto repair shop licenses.
Motion to adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
And item 28 is an order granting permission to transfer the license from Jose Pinheiro to Wilson Frank Elias. This is for an auto repair shop license at 697 Pleasant Street.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to
Second.
adopt has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 29 is a request to accept Gatehouse Drive extending from Maple Street to Prospect.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to refer
Second.
to planning board would be appropriate. Motion to refer to planning board has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 29 is a request that the city engineer prepare plans for the acceptance of Mohawk Drive extending from Indiantown Road to Mohawk Drive.
Motion to refer to plan.
Motion to refer to planning board has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 30 is a request that the city engineer prepare plans for the discontinuance of Ash Street from Ash to Globe Street.
Motion to refer to plan. Second.
Motion to refer has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries.
Vine Street.
Item 30B is a request that the city engineer prepare plans for the discontinuance of Center Street from South Beacon to Ash.
Motion to refer to plan.
Motion to refer to planning has been made and
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And item 30C is a request that the city engineer prepare plans for the discontinuance of Vine Street from South Beacon Street to Ash Street.
Motion to refer to planning.
Motion for the planning has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 31 is the city council's appointment for the historical commission. This would be for Jonathan Lima, and his term would expire on September 13th, 2025.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt has been made. On the motion, Council seat 7, Council Reposo.
I'm just curious, it's a city council appointment, who brought this individual forward for the
We've all
appointment?
brought names. Anybody that wanted to bring a name. brought
I
a
know,
name.
that's why I'm asking the question, who?
Madam Clerk, whose referral was that?
I brought this
I believe it
name
was Council
forward.
Pereira.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
did. He's
yield.
very involved in the city, very involved in historic development, things like that. It would be a real interest from him. He whipped up blown seafood, it was good.
By the way, he was the only recommendation we got from anyone. Council Kilby had another recommendation. Someone, we notified that individual, asked me if he was interested, he declined.
Perfect.
Council seat 4, Council Ability.
I yield.
I think I just heard Councilman seat 6 refer to it. He has historic background and interest. That was my question.
He does.
All right. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you, Council. Council seat 2, Council Dion.
Yeah, there was conversation tonight that there might be a couple of people interested. I mean, it doesn't have a timeline, it's not an emergency.
I don't know who had that conversation, Council. I wasn't aware of that.
No, let me clarify, I recommended Dr. Phil Sylvia,
He denied it.
so he's not interested, so
Correct.
I'm content then.
Yeah. Was that the,
That I yield,
is that the
then.
conversation you're talking about, Councilor?
Done.
Okay. So, yeah, like I said, there's the only individual that was willing to do it and accepted the position, so thank you so much for your input, Councilors. I appreciate it. Madam Clerk?
We have a number of claims. Item number 32.
Did we vote on it?
Motion for the Corporation Council has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, what was that?
We don't have a vote on the appointment.
sorry.
Is the
Yeah.
motion to adopt the order?
We have a motion on item number 31 to adopt
Aye.
the order on the appointment. Has been made and seconded.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
No problem. And 32 were the claims which were referred to
Motion to refer to Corporation Council.
Item
Second.
number 32, refer to Corporation Council, has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 33 was a communication regarding the tax work-off program for veterans.
Motion to accept, place on file.
Motion
Place
to
on
accept and place on
file.
file has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 34 was a communication that we received regarding an alleged ADA noncompliance at a location in Fall River.
Appropriate motion would be to accept,
Refer
place
to
on file, and
Corporation
forward to
Council.
Corporation Council.
Second.
Motion so made.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On the motion, Council seat 3, Council
Just
Kilby.
one quick question, those two items, 33 and 34, I wonder why people just are anonymous when they just send their correspondence. I mean, there's no way for us to follow up with that individual. but
Correct.
At least they're making us aware of the situation, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council seat 2.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that. In the original email, we did, the tax write-off, it was anonymous, but then we had a follow-up email where the man did give his name and phone number. And I did actually reach out to him and had a lengthy conversation with him. So at least that individual did step up and give us that
Good.
information. With that, I yield.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 35 is an open meeting law complaint filed by Patrick Higgins alleging a
refer to
violation
Corporation
of August
Council.
15th.
Motion for the Corporation Council has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 36 is the Fall River Public Library's annual report.
Accept and place, motion to accept and place on
Motion to accept on
file.
file has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to take items 37, 39 together.
Second.
Motion to take items 37 through 39 has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve.
Just a reading, Madam Clerk.
City Council meetings, Madam Clerk, just sort of read what they are.
So the items are the minutes of the public hearings held on August 15th, Committee on Finance held on August 15th, and the regular meeting of the City Council on August 15th.
Of this year.
Yes.
Motion to
Motion
approve.
to
Second.
approve has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last item, whereas the area of President Avenue has been under construction since April 2023 for purposes of water main replacement work, And whereas property owners have sustained damage to their properties due to this work, which is being done between 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. And whereas concerns have been expressed regarding communication with the city and the construction crew, now therefore be it resolved that the Committee on Public Works and Transportation meet with the respective city representatives and affected property owners to discuss this matter.
This is a resolution that put forward due to the
Yep.
latest discussion she had since input time.
Motion to refer.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt the resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion.
And we need
Council will take a recess till we get some signatures for the ordinance committee. Council will take a 2-minute recess. City Council reconvene. Madam Clerk?
We have the miscellaneous traffic ordinance for passage through final ordination.
Motion so made.
Motion to pass the ordination has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We have the community medicine scheduling coordinator position for passage through final ordination.
So moved.
Motion so made.
Motion to pass the ordination has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last is the renaming of the city council subcommittee to include Veterans Affairs.
Motion so made.
Motion to pass the ordination has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Before we adjourn, I just want to say, week today, September 19th, is a primary election for city councils and the mayor of City Fall River. I hope everybody gets out there. I hope all the voters go out and vote, and good luck to everyone. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Good luck, everyone.
Adjourn has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The city council meeting is now adjourned.